What's up, man? We're back here, first smoke of the day. It's our video debut premiere, and it's episode 25. And we're here with a super special guest today. It's me, Pat God, your host here, always my co-host Blackleaf, and then the special guest in the building tonight. Really, no introduction needed. The homie Sherbinsky.
Big Sherbinsky.
Big dog.
What's up,
How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Good?
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is
Big
huge.
salute.
Super stoked.
Big salute coming through. And this is our first debut premiere right here on the set.
Creator of Pink Panties, creator of Gelato, creator of Sunset Sherbert.
If you didn't know.
I mean, if that ain't a wave, what's that, 10 years maybe of the biggest wave we've seen in cannabis? Yeah, I mean, like literally.
Pretty much every
That is a fucking wave. So, huge.
We're happy to be here, man. Happy
Mochi.
to have you on, man.
I mean,
Come
on and on, bro. I'm going to keep rattling them off. I'm going to keep rattling them off.
Jello is the sleeper.
There we go.
I'm gonna smoke right now.
That one, though, that cut's like the hardest one to get. And I'm like a cut aficionado with like hunting strains down. And that was like the cut. The only one that had that, bro, was the Big Cookie Monster. At least he used to have those packs.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah,
man. Rest in peace, Cookie Monster 415.
But I had seen that strain from him, and I was always like, what gelato is this? Or like, what's this one?
Yeah, there was just very few people that would get it on the streets. Cookie Monster was one of them, and he was a big part of the success.
Day one, huh?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, he passed away earlier this year, at a very young age, and so it was a big loss for us. But just want to keep his memory alive. And man, that guy is, we got to give him his flowers now. But even when in the concentrate game, I remember when, it was a primarily like white boy game.
Yeah.
Like Hetty Glass and like dabs and shit. And he was just this fucking big ass black dude that would just show up. Yeah. And he really like was the first one that was, part of that culture, like as a black guy, you know what I mean?
And his name embraced Cookie.
Yeah. And I remember I was like, dude, what you doing out there? That's crazy, bro. And he's just like, and he would be flying around and he would go to the secret sessions and stuff. But
that's how we met him.
It's point being is like this stuff doesn't happen and brands don't get made like in this game without people like Cookie Monster, without people, that there's very few people that I work with that I give flower to on that level. And he was just someone and you always want him to represent it well. And that guy, man, everywhere he went, he would have the packs and he would just be like, here, try this, just try this. And literally, right? He probably gave you guys some, right?
Turkey back. I smoked the first time I ever smoked acai. I was like, acai? He was getting stuff too that you don't get blessed with. Like most people cannot get too. So it was a whole nother level of like, and he would come right up to you and be like, hey man, good flower. Yeah. Like he came right up to us, was like, I'll take some of this and like, here's something, you got to try this. And we were like, what?
Yep. Well, we took pride in that and kind of making sure that we all had access to the best stuff, even like when the holy water like was popping, and that first started, we were some of the first guys that had like holy water, me and Jigga, and we'd go around with a little holy water. And no matter where we went, we always had like the flower that was really kind of special, a little concentrate that was sort of special. And just, we were always sort of sharing and giving it to people. And people remember that, and even you said like Cookie Monster, I remember, and so many people say like, dude, I remember when you gave me this flower. I remember when Cookie did this. I remember when, and I think like, that's the culture. That's what it's about, is creating that sort of, that giving sort of thing. People really appreciate that. And everybody always wants a little something different. And when you get some good ass weed from someone, you smoke it, you remember that shit.
Hell yeah. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the
when
best,
you say the holy water, explain it, because I know what you're talking about, but most people, that's before them. Like, everybody. I mean, that was
shout out to my little bro, Mikey, going back like years, man. I mean, when I was like growing in garages in Oakland and shit with my boy Pitt, Mikey would come around, little guy, full of energy, very passionate about cannabis, real creative. But yeah, he was one of the founding guys of Holy Water. I mean, they just recently, they've come back really hard. They came out with this collab called The Unholy.
Okay.
Shit was,
that's a dope name too.
It was fire, but
I appreciate
those guys
branding.
were always onto some shit with the concentrates. They had some different partners and whatnot
but it was like liquid gold.
Yeah. Well, it was it was dark.
Okay.
Right. And a lot of people would like associate dark concentrate with it not being good, but it was all sort of part of their extraction process. And it was just
the early days too.
Yeah. And it was cool because like you would see like the separation and, all the THCA separated, and we'd have all the jars from all our stuff and they'd sit, and then people remember, right? You get these crazy jars and it'd be that's when people started understanding like the layers of the oils and the terpenes. And
What years do you think this is? Like roughly when those concentrate, because that was way before most people saw
7
them.
years ago, 8 years ago, because
Yeah,
it was
man.
at the same time when like we were just doing sherbet, gelato. Gelato just had its 7th birthday in June.
Damn.
I did a billboard on Melrose to celebrate it.
I saw that.
That's
So
super
in Cali,
athletic.
that's how we celebrate.
birthday,
That's how we
gelato.
celebrate strains.
I love
straight
that.
up.
Different genetics and cultivars that we love. That's how we celebrate them.
You get a billboard.
And there's very few people, man, like I always love to see like what you're into around the cannabis space, but it's not actually flower. Like, I mean, you're always touching whether it's ice creams, right? Or gelatos, my bad. Gelatos.
Yeah.
Or it's that crazy ass ashtray, bro, that like Rolex ashtray you did.
Mm-hmm.
They kept saying like no one can have dude, we were like, yo, how sick would Fairfax be with a dispensary? Because let's say like 7 years ago, everyone's like, you can't have,
We've been saying that
can't have a
forever,
dispensary on Fairfax and on zone. Next thing you know, we have a dispensary on Fairfax.
How are you able to pull that off?
That can't be an easy one.
You know, partners of mine and investors and people that like really worked hard. We hired actually, God, what's his name? I'll come up with it. But a guy in LA that he has a dispensary. I can't remember the name of it, but we consulted with them there and they just had really good relationships. They ended up talking to the landlord. It was a lot of negotiating and
Made it happen.
we
It
made it
was in the
happen.
zone.
Man.
We did a partnership with MJ. Yeah, it was because that zone is so small.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you're past Beverly, you can't have a dispensary, and Beverly is a block away. And then if
There's a
you're
school right there
if
too.
you're
or
past the
whatever.
high school, you
Yeah,
can't have a dispensary.
exactly.
So there's like 2 blocks literally, and it's either my block or it's the Supreme block. And I mean,
Oh,
we
yeah.
got lucky. And the place was a dump. It was like a fish market, and so we went in there. It smelled like dead fish. It was disgusting. Total gut. We had to spend a bunch of money, but you know, in the end, sometimes it's not just so much like a money play, but
A statement.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Like
it
it's a
was,
flagship, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the fact that you have a store in Fairfax is like, we were just in London and we went to Brick Lane, which is like their Fairfax.
Mhm.
And like you could tell just by like having a store on that street meant like something to the whole city.
Part of the
Yeah.
culture. It's like
to the
here's
whole
a
culture. You know what I mean? Anyone who fell through too was like, yo, for us in like 2012, 2011, we would come out here, we would go to Fairfax, and that was like the hype. You know, we
Yeah.
would come out, we would get some
Oh,
weed,
run into currency.
you know,
all
a
kinds of
diamond supply and
Yeah,
lines
yeah.
going outside. And that was coming from Florida. That was where we first started seeing like the real hype of like, you know, culture.
This is
You
the
know what I
spot.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
like people being supportive of like the smaller brands and the shit that was like just drops. And like, if you knew, you know, like it was different. You know what I mean?
Fairfax was just kind of a evolution of the vision, you know, where at that time,
Streetwear.
like 2-3 years ago, yeah, it was, you know, Complex Con, like when we launched the shoes, it was about attaching cannabis with that culture, you know,
Yeah.
of like Nike and streetwear and everything that was cool. You know, you guys can know like 2.5 years ago or even pre-COVID, you know, it was really different, right?
100%.
It was really like a flex and how cool you are, your gold chains, all this shit. And like, you see a lot less of that now, right?
Mhm.
People are still into cool shit, but people don't want to show off. Like,
Yeah.
I think is like we once did. There's
Right,
always going to
right.
be people that are showing
Easy to be
off.
so.
But
Yeah.
I think from a brand perspective, people are really starting to look at the purpose behind the brand, right? And so Fairfax is awesome. I think it's good for like a flagship, right? But it's just the start. It's just the beginning.
Absolutely.
It's kind of the attention grabber.
That LA.
And yeah, and like I think once you check off certain boxes, right? People start to respect you on different levels. People start to see you. And I saw all these guys that were in streetwear. I won't name any names, but you know, they were running around LA like they're so cool. And, you know, they're really not doing anything to help the community. Some are, you know, some are. And, you know, like, for example, Nicky Diamond, he's out there on my block, but the motherfucker does a lot for the city.
Man,
he does
he's
a
a
lot for his
great person.
community. Yeah. And, you know, he's from the Bay too.
You can
so,
tell a good person too from their family dynamic to their company dynamic to like just
yeah,
how
just
they,
the way they operate, how
like,
people love him. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly,
he's
man.
loved.
Yeah.
But just certain people, to me, they're doing it right in terms of connecting with the community. But a lot of people, they're just not. It's like this negative.
See, I feel like it's been a money grab.
It's to me, it's a negative competition. I call it the trenches, right? Which I've been in the trenches and I rose up through the trenches. I was raised in the trenches, right? Like
with that.
yeah, I eat the mud. And but like
I love
all
that.
these other-
Still slightly in.
I like it.
But there's also bosses, right? Even if you look at certain rankings and like how, you know, there's a reason why there's ranking, and there's a reason why you start at the bottom. There's a reason why you rise to the top. If you do your shit right and you know, eventually you'll be making those decisions. And, you know, and especially as we grow older, and, you know, I just turned 45. I'm not a kid anymore, you know, and I shouldn't have to be scrubbing, you know,
reservoirs and shit.
No,
bro.
it's not right.
No, that's like, and there's a lot of people.
That's like having your dad.
But they try to put you in position and say, well, you're not a grower if you're not in there scrubbing a res. But it's like, no, listen.
That's part of it.
15 years, though. 15 years. I mean, one of the things when me and him first linked up, he used to tell me, I'll make sure that you never scrub another res in your life. And for a grower that you're like, you talking real to me? You know what I'm saying? Like,
the point is to be a business owner and to put people in position to win, to build a team, you know, and let them up their value.
Talk about where you're going.
You know,
I mean, right before you made the decision that like, hey man, I'm going to grow full time. Like, what were you doing?
Like
what job? Real estate.
Yeah. So I started
sales.
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. In like 1999 while I was on vacation in Hawaii, or 2000. And he's like Hawaiian. And I came back and I got my grandfather, Antonio Shrillo, was a real estate broker. Rest in peace. He was also a fighter pilot. He was a legend. I looked up to him. Italian guy, Sicilian, adopted my mom. So I was kind of raised by the Sicilian family.
Oh, wow.
But he was a hard worker. He was very connected. He would talk Italian to people. He was very, very personable, you know, and he was a pillar in the community. He played golf with the guys that, you know, were the newscasters and like the movers and shakers. And he opened up the first chain of piano stores in California, my grandfather. And so he had a whole business hustle where he had all the best piano teachers. And if you bought like a $10,000 piano from him, you would have lessons for life. And so every time you came, he would give you lessons. And so he was really successful entrepreneur. So I think like I picked up a lot, you know, from him, and, you know, moving forward into like how I decided to kind of take the approach into from following his footsteps and being real estate. And at that time, I'd also done a couple of years of construction. Like I left high school like 6 months before I was going to graduate. I got in a fight and they were like, all right, you got to go. They tried to send me to continuation school. And I told my dad, I was like, yeah, shout out Roseville High. You bitch.
I'm actually out.
I got another plan.
My dad was old school, and I went with my dad. I remember sitting in the living room and I go, Dad, I was like, I'm not going to go sit in front of those guys and try to like explain. They want me out. They're totally racist, to be honest with you. And he's just like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to work. And he goes, you're going to get your diploma? I said, yep. And he's all right. Yeah. And then I got my real estate license then worked my ass off for that. And then I ended up doing real estate. And then the real estate market bombed like in early 2000. And I was like hustling. I was in San Francisco. I learned so I have that side of me where I'm like, you know, I can do real estate contracts.
But now you got real estate and now you got construction. And I'm
you know where this is going.
Yeah. I'm a grower's grower. I'm about to say, two of the best growers I ever met was a construction guy and the other guy did real estate. And together we made a crazy little team for a little while. But that's what I'm saying. He's laying the footprint for what's to come.
Yeah. And so we talked about like how I got started and like how I got into it. And at that time, you know, people weren't advertising like that they were growers, or, you know, it was very, you know, hidden. Even like electricians were hard to find. You had to know somebody if someone's going to build your room.
Like even 5 years ago.
What's that?
Even 5 years ago.
Like, even now, some people are still live by that.
You gotta
code,
be,
you know?
But then you were like, I'm going to hire the electrician. I'm going to pay him. And then I hope he doesn't come back and rob me.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Like, hopefully I'm going to give him more than he's asking, but please just forget my address after this.
I've been working with the same electrician. Shout out Ray. Ray now is like, Ray's a legend in the industry now. I got Ray, you motherfucker. I got you into doing air conditioning because I needed you. And now you literally are buying homes and shit on your how many air conditioners this guy's installed. Because no one was really doing it. There was one guy that did the split system AC installs, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not even AC guys, they go out there and they're like, what's going, like most of them are from companies.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, it's not that hard. I saw my guy do it. I go figure it out. And he goes, all right, buy me all the stuff and I'll figure it out. And now he has like his whole, he installs all the split ACs for like everybody in the Bay Area.
Because we didn't see it until we came to the West Coast.
That's what it's all about, though. Literally, just, helping people, learn how to fish, man. Like, here's a rod, bro.
There's one,
and I'll pay
that's
you.
a good opportunity, man.
Yeah.
Get it.
There's one layer of the contribution to the game, though, right? Because everything is born out of necessity. And if there's people that need split systems and there's nobody to do it, we're going to find somebody to do it for the game. And that's what we did. And literally, he's probably installed like thousands of people. Like, so anyways, we build up with each other, friends and like family members, which that, as people know, doesn't always go well. Like when you think those are the people you can trust the most, and you find out that always isn't the case.
The most, man. And
well, and that one,
realistic,
and it hurts the most on the flip side when it goes the wrong way, right? Yeah. But honestly, coming from the East Coast, because I'm originally from Florida, right? I did my stint over there, and then I moved out here like 7 years. I was in Colorado for a while, but mini splits, bro. We didn't know anything about that, and like positive air pressure. Yeah. Young growers that look that shit up. I mean, positive air pressure. Honestly,
it's a big upgrade when you go from like your little airflow. Cause I was always, so, all right, let's go back a little more. So my friend, the real estate market bombed. I was living in the Sunset in San Francisco, Sunset District, they call it. And I had in those houses, you know, you have a basement. You go upstairs and your house is on top, but the whole floor plan on the bottom is your basement. Basically, It's huge. And so a lot of people would like this, they would close it off and make a wall and have your grow in the front. And you would have your Prop 215 paperwork. And it was just like, let's go, let's start growing. Yeah.
Love it.
And that's how my boy was like, I was like, man, what am I going to do? And he goes, dude. And it was literally like, you see that little corner right there? Yeah. It was about the size of that. And it was in the corner of my garage, and it was full of.
So for all you guys at home, you could start with a tent.
Yeah.
The man himself started with
even right now, it's legal in California.
100%. 6x6 space.
You're looking at a 4x4, 6x6 space. Yeah. What he's speaking about.
And look, I didn't know any, well, I did know my boy, Jeff, right? And shout out Jeff Smith. Yeah, I'm gonna drop the last name, Jeff.
Hell yeah.
Damn, Jeff.
Because you're the OG to the OG.
Yeah, Jeff is the OG. So
Jeff Smith, Ray.
Shout out Manifest. Shout out. Yeah. So my girl at the time, like her best friend was her brother, and so she's like, hey, you should meet my brother and all stuff. And so I went by this spot, and he was doing clothing, but he was like had all these packs too. I was like, what's this? So then I got to know him a little bit. So when I decided to start to grow, he was the one guy I knew that was like crushing it. Right. And he was just, I was like, so I went and talked to him, and I'll never forget. We went to some like shady Mexican spot, and he was having a beer, and he was kicking. He's like, so what do you want to do? I want to grow pot. Right? It was like that conversation where the guy, I've had people do this a million times with me, right? They're all nervous. And
sounds
like,
very familiar.
You're right. And they give you their whole life plan and like why it's all led to this.
Yeah.
And,
it's like the worst person you could go to.
So anyhow, he sends me to Grass Valley to go see my boy Roy, who's a staple in Grass Valley in Nevada City. So he's had a hydro store there forever. Shout out Roy. He takes me on river rafting or like in a kayak. He lives right on the river. Shows me around in the truck, all fishing, the whole shit. I get high as shit. We have dinner. I pack my fucking truck full of shit. I mean, I couldn't fit one more thing. And then he sends me back to San Francisco, right? I unload all my shit. I'm ready to go. I'm all pumped. I'm like, Jeff. Yeah. I can't get a hold of Jeff. And I'm like,
he's growing quick,
2 weeks goes by. I literally emptied I had a 401k that I started doing like when I was doing real estate on my own. I had like 10 grand in it. I drained it. All my money was spent. I literally had no money, just barely getting by. And Jeff had basically gone on a bender. Jeff, this is part of history too. So thanks, Jeff.
Jeff Smith.
Yeah, Jeff Smith, man.
Fucking went on a bender when my man Sherb needed to know how to set up the grow room.
So he goes to LA and he's like, gets in the thing with the girlfriend, broke up with his girlfriend. He's nowhere to be found. So I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? I got all the equipment. I'm all pissed. I go down to Haight Street and I go down popular Haight Street, Haight-Ashbury.
Yeah.
I lived about 5 minutes from it. So I go down there, I go down to this bookstore and I get Ed Rosenthal's book. And I also got Jorge Cervantes' book. I think it was
Grow
like
Bible.
The Grow Bible.
Yeah.
And so I read that thing. I went home, read it front to back, like twice, like both of them. And I was like, all right, I think I got this. And I created the environment. I had my airflow. I had my little fan. I built the boxes all myself, that like the diversion.
Love it.
Yeah.
Dude.
And so I built my whole thing in the Sunset. the like 2 days after everything was all set, I was like, all right, I don't hear anything. I'm talking to my neighbor, and the houses are joined, right?
Oh,
And like, so there's no gap. There's no like, and I was talking to my neighbor. I go, yeah. I was like, we just start chatting, and we're talking about like keeping the. I go, hey, if you need anything, let me know. You know, I was like, I got guns and shit. And he goes, yeah, me too. I'm a cop. And I was like, Jesus. So
never mind.
Yeah, I'm undercover. So I didn't. So my first bro was next to a cop.
Wow.
I
You
lived there
learned
for
how
like 2 years.
to live stealth.
Stakes were high.
Yeah, I was.
That's Florida life right there. No
At least you're in the
smell,
Bay, though.
no vibrations from the fucking fan.
At least
or
you're in the
like,
Bay, though.
Yeah, I was.
That's the only thing.
But dude, at this time, they were kicking doors in. They were
Yeah.
busting people. If you smelled anything, people were
it
calling
didn't
the
matter.
cops.
You felt you were.
early 2000s or what?
Yeah. This was like 2004.
Yep.
Yeah, because that
Yep.
was right when SB 420 like came into effect. That's when I really started going hard. Like but yeah, that was SB 420. For those that you don't know, Prop 215 was 1996, and people of California voted for medical marijuana, the Compassionate Health Act. So it took them 8 years to release SB 420, which was a follow up. And the legislation that set the framework and the guidelines for people like me to grow collectively. And it set more guidelines, so there wasn't so much gray area. So that set like plant counts, how much you could have on you, how you could work collectively. And so that was the basis of how guys like me got started. And I'm proud of it. That was the beginning. It was
The opening of the door.
It was all from the AIDS epidemic, if you really want to go back. And I always show love and I honor like the giants of the shoulders we stand on. Like, like Dennis Perone, who was a gay man in the Castro. He had the first dispensary in the U.S. and it was at his apartment in the Castro. The first High Times on U.S. soil was held at his house and in the Castro. And so I think it was Prop P. Guys like Stevie Leangelo as well. Got a lot of love for Steve.
Harborside.
But these guys have been around that are older than me, that I know that I follow in their footsteps. And that's why I tell this story about the history of it. Because a lot of these cats these days, they're so caught up in like being the coolest and the chains and the badass and all this shit. And they're so detached from reality of what this industry is all about, which is the compassion. And going back to the AIDS patients, the whole reason why we're able to go in stores and buy weed now is because guys like Dennis Perone sat in front of legislators and convinced them that I've got AIDS patient friends that are going to die and they can't eat and they can't sleep. But when I give them cannabis, it gets me emotional, dog.
Yeah.
It's real shit.
No, for sure. It's tied to your purpose.
There you go.
100%. But when you experience it, I was there and I met Dennis Perone and I went to the like on the doorsteps of the Capitol and I saw those guys just fucking like cannabis needs to be legalized and fucking just like fighting, bro.
I can't imagine being there when all that was taking place.
It was an honor, bro. Yeah, and it's political. And guys like the first dispensary I went to, Martin Olive at the vapor room, the Jello's kicking in. But he was the first. When I had my weed, let me go back a little bit. But when I had my first flower, right, I printed out from the Department of Health from San Francisco, went online, and there was like 10 dispensaries, and it was all over the Bay, like Oakland Cannabis Buyers Group, and there was like a few others in the East Bay, and then there was just like these addresses, and I was like, okay, and I just went to all these different ones, and some of them, dude, were shady as fuck, like.
You were just
gang members and shit.
There.
Yeah, I was just.
But
like,
this shows you when you want something, you don't let it
just
stop.
Shows you that no one skips this step because we did this too.
Yeah.
You know,
but see, at that time when we were all doing this, like this was like we were the first. Like there was, it was to me. I call it. It was the beginning.
We were way later, by the way, but
Well, at this time, this was like the beginning. Like the people like talking about like Martin Olive. Yeah, like Martin Olive. He was like one of the first guys who had a dispensary in the country. And the Bay Area is the epicenter of this. It's the mecca. It's like that's where it all started because it started from the AIDS epidemic. I believe it's Prop P. Forgive me, Dennis, if I'm wrong, but I think it was 1989. It was something for like Berkeley, and he was like, "Yes, I want to have a nice establishment for my friends to come and smoke and sit down in a safe place where they can feel respected and honored, and they can have their medicine." And it passed, right? And so that led to all the and there was a lot of I honestly, man, like Tony Serra, I believe, is one of the lawyers. Hallinan, you know, there's these legendary lawyers that were like hippies that were a huge part of that, the framework of like San Francisco and cannabis culture through nice
freedom fighters.
His name, Dr. Makamura, or I forget. There's Dr. Hanya Barth she wrote like the majority of the scripts in San Francisco. All of these people are part of this movement, right? A lot of them have passed away now. But anyways, this is all part of where I wanted to go. And I think is these can't be forgotten, right? And like the compassion that I think is missing now in the industry. And so I think I always want to go back and just show honor to like the history of it and how I got started, right? I was there going with my backpack to the dispensaries, and I ended up meeting on Martin. And Martin, when I walked into his dispensary, it was a lot like this. It was literally like this. It was that 70s show, lava lamps, everything was, he threw together some couches and shit. And it was like, yo, let's create a vibe. And it was the first place I ever went in. I felt safe. I felt love. I felt warmth. I felt community. I sat down with the guys I've never met just like this. And they're like, yeah, go ahead, dude. And they had grinders and they had all the shit set up. And I was like, this is it.
For a grower, feeling safe and then being around like-minded people where you could be like, it's literally a harbor.
I might be able to make a friend or two here.
Yeah.
It's just a great feeling.
Well, and you probably ran into other people
Especially
doing the same thing growing. I'm guessing.
Ducking and dodging.
Like, what were you? It was that first strain, though. Just a quick back. That first strain, when you set up that little tent, what strain was it?
Afgoo.
Oh,
yeah.
great strain.
That was like running.
And the buds were like this big. All of them. My first run. And it was just crazy. Yes. I was like, whoa, I fell in love. For those of you that ever grown in a small, like you're sitting there in a 5-gallon bucket and you're just like watching it. And you think like watching it is going to make it grow faster.
Yeah.
And you realize it won't. And you learn patience. Yeah. Right? Because growing, there's a lot of patience. And you also learn faith, like growing, because you have faith that what you're doing now, the work you're putting in is going to bear fruit. Right. And so, that's the thing is like, I always have the saying where time flies, right? But that just means that I'm growing more weed. So, you know,
you're falling in love with it. You're falling in love with your craft.
If you got weed coming down, it's a good thing.
But he's falling in love with his craft. Is that what he's representing? Because like, I remember that. I remember laying on the floor, right? We'd have big trellises and I would lay under, see the lights with the leaves. And I would just, wow, no one knows. And this house is booming. And all these other people are living normal lives. And I got this fucking crazy house cranking, right? Yeah. Early 2002, 2003. And that feeling, though, is he's fallen in love with his craft and then now becomes the passion of.
I think the reason you see like a lot of companies and cultivators and people within this industry clash is because within their 6 human needs, a lot of their top need is significance. And like being a grower makes you feel very significant. I feel like as far as like, yo, you have a grow house, no one knows what you're doing, especially back then. Like, and even now, I mean, this is amazing. And we haven't even got to what we're on the table yet, but continue and keep going on with the story. I'm loving it, bro. So you had the room, the Afgoo, and then,
you know, so I meet Martin. He's like, I take my first run down, right? And he's like, fuck, dude, this is great work. And like, literally, I went to like 6 spots. I ended up going to Martin's and I was like, okay, this is cool. And he just like had a beard, little dude. And he's just like behind the counter. He's like, you know, a little cocky and shit. He's like, check it out. And I was like, and it was literally just, that was it. I had my weed. I had my hash. There was a counter. There was a man. What do you think? Boom. No testing. Just like, I didn't spray nothing. It was all love. And he's just like, dude, this is phenomenal work. And I was like, thank you. He goes, what do you want for it? And I was like, bro, I mean, I had no idea. And the first he gave me like 3,800, like the first this was
killer. Like, he didn't try to rip you off. He didn't let me show you the ropes.
Your gut and found where your place was first.
Yeah. I was just like, this is what I have to offer. Like, what is it worth, dog? Yeah. And he could have told me $2,000. I would have taken it happily.
Some fire Afgoo.
Yeah. And then he goes, this was dope. And then I pulled out a big old patty of fucking hash because Afgoo makes the best fucking hash. It was like, I got some seeds I just found from 2011 that
Love
I
it.
think I heard that on your
some
story.
Burmese and some
You're breaking those out.
Yeah, I'm gonna break those out and just bring
It's
some
like
different shit.
we keep, you know, it
Time
keeps
capsule.
popping up that the originals are going to come back around, and then the
Yeah.
remixes are going to hit too.
I want to get into that a little bit too, but the thing and why I stuck to the originals and why I haven't done a bunch of breeding is because
I
I
like
come from the homies
Jello
like
smoking, by the way.
like my boy
Give me the
Ian.
lighter, Big Chirp.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is nice cider, bro.
Thank
My
you.
boy Ian and like Josh D, right? Those Ian, my good friend that I've known for 20 years in the Bay. One of those cats that, you know, certain guys like when we were younger where you knew they sold weed, but like you wish you could meet these guys, right?
Yeah, hell
and
yeah.
back then there was just there wasn't Instagram, there was no way to reach out to these motherfuckers, and it was like a code, like you didn't dare.
He was one of
talk-
them for
Yeah.
me. You were one of them. But
and
yeah.
so Ian was like one of those guys for me, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just, I knew he was like the OG crew. He was a contract. He's built like fucking 1,000 grow rooms. Josh D was his friend. He was from like the San Bernardino Valley, and he went, you know, and he was one of the kids that moved up to LA when he was like in high school. I mean, to the Bay Area when he was in high school. So when I met him, he started telling me, yeah, my boy Josh, this is the thing with the OG. This is our OG. And then my other boy, Dave, Super Dave, Vaj, these two cats were like a little older, and they were just rocking. My boy Vaj lived in this little house, and he had like his underground thing with like these 600s, and it was just OG, and he grew the most fucking fire OG ever. And I was like, dude, this is insane. And it turns out this is the OG. This is like the Josh D OG. This is the whole the real deal. Yeah. So
Killer.
that was part of my friends and family just from like being in San Francisco and being in certain crowds. And
I were in the Bay first.
yeah, I'm from the Bay. Yeah. So
But-
I grew up in South.
But
I mean,
Josh D and those
them,
guys.
they were in the Bay first.
No, they were in LA.
Oh, so they were in.
Wow.
So you found your
Ian
way
moved
down
to the Bay.
Oh,
Ian was
so
their
he
one
was
friend.
the link. Got
Ian
it.
was their one friend, and he
Killer.
took the OG.
Got it.
And so that was my whole kind of,
And that's what led it into the Bay.
where I'm going with the story is these guys rocked this shit forever. And they
Yeah, they haven't stopped.
and it never went out of style. And even to this day, I
still rock.
like my boys that grow the good OG. I'm like, where is it? Give me a bag.
Yeah.
I need it. And
He's
it's
down in
like,
Florida now.
it's
Josh D.
And it goes fast. And, you know, but that's why I was like, let me do these and let me do them the best I can. And they're never going to go out of style. Right.
Straight up.
You're
And-
right.
And the fact is people have taken some of them and they've created their whole brand really off of it. Like Bacho Gelato is one of the biggest like brand, like Frost and Seed sold. And I don't know how much market share it created.
in a jar in there.
Yeah.
By a well-renowned grower for sure. You know, all
It's fire strain, bro. You created. I mean, it's fire.
Sugar, you know, I could go on and on.
Fire.
Like, if you look at like a lot of the hot strains right now, they either have Bacho in it, they have
Yep.
sherbet, Jello. I've been able to keep. I mean, even going back to the very beginning, man, when I was just building these strains up, I would literally have my backpack and I would hop in my truck and I would go to San Jose. I would go to see my boy out in the Union City. I would go to Berkeley. I would go to San Francisco. And so everybody got a little bit of the weed, and then there would be some on the street, you know, and like Cookie Monster and guys like that.
Yeah.
And so that I
Good
always
rep,
felt a
good
lot of the
reps.
guys were like, keep it on the street, keep it on the street. They don't, you know, the clubs don't deserve this. This is that exclusive. This is that exotic. And this was like before people were calling shit exotic.
They didn't see the long play.
Like I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Designer
We
weed.
started this fucking game. And
Yeah.
and look, where we're going with it, it's definitely going to be reclaimed, you know, because what's happening right now is that there's just a lot of watering down. People are starting, you know, like if you have a bag and it could be whatever, they just name it something else. And it's just a problem. And I think I've allowed people to just kind of run with this stuff because I think it's great. Like if someone could take it and put the work in and work with a genetic, I don't care if it's a bag seed. I don't care if it's the only thing I don't approve is people that have stolen genetics from me.
Right.
Like I don't bless that. I don't honor that.
No
and
thieves or liars.
you know,
ever.
and you know, spirit doesn't honor that. And so
Ever.
that's what they have to deal with. But the people that have put in the hard work and the passion, I wish blessings and prosperity on every single person.
Especially seed chasing.
Yeah.
Keeping genetics in house, though, especially going rec, is like so
Almost.
difficult. My buddy always tells me, once you go
It's
rec,
an ugly game.
he's
gone
had such a
forever.
battle that he always tells me, once you go rec, you better be working on the next thing, because like it's like the culture, right?
No,
You
it's
got to
grimy.
hire people that you're like, these guys would have my back in a fight, just like they would in the garden.
Let me tell you how I
It's
feel
tough.
about business. I'm a business owner.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of employees. My personal, and I'm just going to say this for the record and just for other business owners as well. Even good people in human nature, like people are going to take advantage of certain situations. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person per se. It means that people are desperate. And when you back people up against the wall, their instinct comes and they'll make some decisions that are for their survival. Yeah. And if they know that, damn, I might lose my job, I might go jail, I might get my ass kicked, I might fuck. But if I can just cut this and put it in my pocket, and if I can get out to my car, it might change my life and all my friends' life. And guess what?
50,000.
It does. How many people have actually done that? You know what I mean? Where they go. But look, and then let's say we're boys, and I come and I go, oh my guys, I got the Jello cut.
Yeah.
And then be like,
you're the man.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
And then we're trapping. And honestly,
and now your packs go from 25 to 45.
It's a drop in the bucket to the market, though, right? Like if you look at how much weed is consumed and how much weed is done with whatever in the fucking States, it's like all of us could grow 1,000 pounds each a month. And guess what? No one would give a fuck, and no one's even gonna notice because it's just like it's like this little bit of weed that
fire, it's smoked.
Yeah, and my point is like there's enough for everybody to go around. Like
as long as it's quality.
Yeah, I mean it's just.
But you got to get it by good means, and you got to put in the hard work, and there is no shortcuts to success. Period.
Wow. So there's new stuff coming in, and Jello, we're going to bring this up too, but
we'll catch us up. Hold on. What happened after you hit that first shop off?
Oh, you want to go back in history?
Yeah, man, we got to keep going.
We're in the time machine?
Yeah, time machine, baby. We're in the first smoke of the day time machine today.
Okay. No, it does get good. That's the next chapter. So once we established a relationship, right? And I'm like, I fell in love with, like after about 3 or 4 months, I'm like, hey man, I want to give like some extra weed like to people. This wasn't. And so that was like, I learned the compassion side of it, right? Because they were like, every Wednesday they give weed to like disabled people. They give like weed out. And I was like, man, that's dope. And
that is dope.
I said, I have this trim, I have this stuff. I go, and so we would make cookies. I would just make shit myself, literally go get stuff, do my trim, make
that's
butter.
So
I would have like a couple of ounces of weed and I go, hey man, who's someone that I can help? This is a tearjerker for me too, man. Sometimes like this is what got me in. This is what made me dedicate my life. And
at
like
the shows, we felt a little bit of it.
Yeah. But so Martin goes, hey, there's this woman, I'll hook you up with her. She needs weed. She's really like, you know, she doesn't low income and she's a single mom or something. She needs help. I was like, okay. So I met with her and she's like, hey, I go, how much do you consume a month? And she said, oh, about an ounce. So I started giving her about an ounce a month. And then like 3 months later, she comes up to me and she's like, I give her the weed and she starts crying. And I'm like, yo, what's up? And she goes, one leg that I have is like shorter than the other. And it's been giving me back problems and I can't sleep. And she goes, since I don't have to spend $300 at the dispensary, I was able to go and get like my special shoes I need. And now I can walk and I'm not in pain and I'm sleeping at night because of your flower. And only your flower helps me sleep. And I was like, I think I got emotional later.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like,
well, she got that edge she needed.
So she told me, yeah. And at that moment I was like, wow, I can make an impact in this world. Yeah. You know, like I can make a difference. Like me, I don't have to be a doctor. I don't need to go to school. This is fucking real deal right now. Fucking the trenches, like on the line. Yeah. And I was like literally driving home and I was like, man, that was the moment when I decided to partner with the plant. And I was like, yo, we're doing this. And it was just sort of, I realized that everything in my life exactly. Yeah. Like what we're talking about, the little bit of construction, the realist, all the things. I was like, okay, this is like perfect.
We're brewing a pot and we're putting all these things in and that's what we're getting now. Yeah.
And so I fell in love with that culture of just, and at that time, you know, from like, that's when High Times was still cool. That's when all these shows were, it was still cool. You know, I mean, to me, it was when it was like, there was like 10 companies.
The biggest thing ever was to win a cannabis cup. Yeah. It was a dream about it.
But at that time, it was like, you knew everybody that had a booth, right? They all were part of the community. It was like it was so different.
You might have got word who paid for
you would see the same weirdos like at the different, like you'd see them at the you know, protesting at the Capitol and doing the thing. And then you would see them. And it was, bro, back then it was hardcore, like, you know, all the community. And just to give some love to the psilocybin mushroom community, especially in the Bay Area, it's great that I've been able to be part of like what Oakland High Fae is doing, my boy Reggie over there, and just like Decrim Nature. I don't know if you guys
No,
just to
No,
give
educate
shout
us on
some
that.
love.
Educate us on that real quick because
So
It's
you
fair
guys
to
have heard about like decriminalization happening
Yeah.
with,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
in
yeah.
Oakland and some of these. So Carlos and Larry are the founders of Decrim Nature, and follow them or Google them and support them. To me, they're at the foundation. They're at the like. Those are the guys that are really like pushing the envelope to really do it right. Not legalization, but decriminalization, which legalization, which we've experienced through Prop 64, can lead to, you know, things that aren't so favorable, especially for people of color. And so that's something I'm passionate about too, is like minority rights. And I've just recently joined the MCBA. So that's something, you know, that we're fighting for. Yeah. So what I'm noticing and feeling like, and what I'm loving is the community that they're building, you know, teaching each other how to grow, having organized events, and, you know, people of color. And if in Oakland, that's what I want to see happening. But what's so dope is like that's being incubated by like people that I really like, I think are really dope and have vision, guys like Reggie that are community leaders that are just doing it right. They're not, what's different now is guys like that. And why I'm involved and why I'm speaking is because they're like, what lessons can we learn from the cannabis industry?
Smart.
And what I'm telling them is like, dude, I had nobody to tell me, hey, look out for these shady guys and all the like. And let me just put, if there's one thing I can say on the show, and I could talk to all my growers, all my guys that are coming up in the industry, if you respect me, if you want to be in the game, if you want to listen to anything I say, like be wary of these predatory lending techniques and these investors that want to come in and want to big you up and take you all over and make you really feel like it's it. And really, in the bottom line in the contract, it's all for them and it's not for you. And it's all good until it's not all good. And then you lose your certain parts of your company. And the thing is, if you have something special and if you're creative or you have certain genetics, like believe in yourself and hold on to that as long as you possibly can. And if you have to make it a business decision where you have to give up certain part of your company, you have to do whatever to do what you have to do, then so be it. You make that decision. But there's a lot of people, and especially in with psilocybin now, right? There's a lot of other factors to think of because mushrooms are not like cannabis. They're not consumed on a level like cannabis, right? So if one company starts blowing up a big warehouse and they're making all the, guess what? That's more mushrooms than like whole cities can consume, right? Oh, wow. So it's not like cannabis. So then what happens, and you take it further into like the indigenous communities where a lot of these plant medicines come from, like ayahuasca, some of these other indigenous plant medicines where their whole communities are dependent and relying on these type of businesses. And so what we want to do and what Decrim Nature is doing is going in and not being like the white hero and coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to save the day, but coming in and listening to them and creating programs that work for them and their community. Like, how can we work together and give back so we can protect these communities? They can continue to strive and have a living and create wealth with us and partner with us. And so these things are important, man, because when we consume at high levels, a lot of times, and even now, like on a lower level, these things are considered. I want to bring something up too. That I'll be speaking on more. Like right now in Michigan, for example, right? I'm a garage grower. That's where I come from. Right now, there's a lot of shit going on in Michigan, right? Yeah, they're trying to take the rights away. And there's a company. I want to speak on this. This is important.
This show is not about
crazy.
This show is proud for people that want to grow their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
being cannabis in the culture.
100%.
But that's crazy what they're trying to do.
This is where I come from. And I got into business with Common Citizen, right? They were growing my flower. And they were all like about the people and about me. They supported everything I was doing. I come in and it takes about 6 months just to get the cannabis, everything growing, right? Yeah. So not a lot of communication during that time. And then when we do our launch, about a month after we launch and we're actually in the stores, like I end up finding out that they started the MCMA, right? Which is an organization which is essentially really going after home growers. Oh yeah. Right. And this is in Michigan. So I start getting all these messages like I'm supporting this. Yeah. Right? And so let me make it clear. I do not support the MCMA. I am not part of the MCMA. The people that cultivate my flower there are, and I do not agree with what they're doing, how they're doing it. And I'll make that, this is really the first time I'm publicly saying that. I get messages from people, sure, how could you do this? You're one of us and this breaks our heart. I literally will sit there and fucking type to people and go, no, you got it fucked up. So some people do. Honestly, 70% of the people, 70% of the people are very respectful. Mm-hmm. Like, what is this about? Yeah. And I'll tell them, like, this is what's up. I'll tell them this is what's going on. The other people are just like, fuck you, fucking dickhead, you know, and they just go dark. I'm like, okay. And the reality is, you can say I could have done more homework on who the people or whatever. They put this on my lap. It was very by design. Yeah. That's a fact. And now, you know, we're in contract. They have all my genetics. There's a lot of moving parts, and I want to be an agent of change, mm-hmm. right? And so what I've been doing is trying to leverage my position, because they don't want to lose me as a partner. And I feel like if I just go, fuck you, and just bounce, like, how am I representing the people in any way? Right? By giving up any kind of say or anything, any power of how I can influence them. Right. If me leaving has any weight, then I could say, hey, I don't want to leave, but you need to make things right. Like, what are you doing? This is some things that they've said that they're doing, which is spending millions of dollars to create training and licensing and infrastructure for growers to be able to transition and have better access and less, barriers of entry, which is like legal fees, licensing, all the things that are going to stop guys. That's so
the hardest part.
It sounds good, right? It sounds great. Good, but I'm like, okay, well, where does that all fit into what we're doing now? And like, time's ticking. Yeah. And in the meantime, people are pissed off. And honestly, this is just the beginning. Like, mm-hmm. the legislation and all the bullshit is just now starting to come out. And
God forbid it passes.
I mean, not just that. Who knows? It's the beginning of the slippery slope. And look, if it comes down to it, like, look, I stand with the grower. I stand with the cultivators. And, hell yeah. And that's the bottom line. I'm really trying to affect the way that these guys can do business, again, by being an agent of change. I believe in that. I believe that if I can work with common citizens and say, hey guys, these are the needs of the community. And mm-hmm. I don't want it to be the one to tell them. I want to be the people in Michigan say, hey, no, guys, why don't we work together? What is it that you want? These multi-state operators are not going away. Yeah. I don't have the money or power to stop them, right? They're the ones that are in, they have all the political connections. They're doing what they're doing, right? Yeah.
They're willing to take the risk now too, before it's federally legal. So which is rare.
Coexist? The question is, how do we coexist? How does it work to where it works for the home growers? It works for the multi-state operators.
What's their story too, right? If they're saying we're with Sherbinsky, right, and we're running his strains, they're saying we represent you too. Not only you represent them, so like their storyline should be the home grower, because that's what you are. That's where we all came up, and it doesn't hurt them. That's the crazy thing. It only helps, because when I took a job, right, in the cannabis industry, I wanted to learn what's metric about, what's all this shit about. And one of the crazy things is all these guys either have a home grow, or they came from a home grow and, man, my parents wouldn't let me do that anymore, so I got a job now and this is what I'm doing. Or like, dude, I got one light up at home, but like I'm working here, and like, and they love it. And so like, let me
tell you what it is. And it's not just going to be in Michigan. Yeah. It's going to be in every state. The MSOs, what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, everybody needs to comply. Just like us. It's only fair. Jeez. Why is it only fair? Because it's for the health of the patient, right? And that's their whole thing, is like, they come in and they say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, they should do the same testing. They should have the same compliance. Why shouldn't we? Why do we have to do this and they don't? Bush? No, it's a pitch that is believable to people that sit in positions and be like, well, if it's for the health of the patient, then we need to regulate that. No, I mean, this is serious.
I know. I laugh because they justify stuff that's like,
but that's what's going to happen in every state. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, is their angle and how they come in is they say it under the guise of the health of the patient, but then that's the slippery slope that comes in. And that's what's going to happen in Michigan. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to happen in these other states, because they know if they go in front of people that don't know shit about weed and they go, well, why do you want to make rules for this? Well, because there's mold and you saw the shit about, and then guess what? And then other companies will come do smear campaigns and shit to where it's like, you saw it happen with the vaporizer
Scare
carts.
tactics.
You know, I don't know.
No,
I won't call it out, but you don't think that was a whole maneuver?
That was crazy.
Come on, man.
It demolished the whole industry off.
The vape
basically.
market went out overnight.
It's just now coming back, and it's coming back because of rosin.
But these are the level of game. This is the level of what we're talking about here, right? When it comes to like MSO, the shit is not going away. It's not going away. I don't believe in punching air, right? There's a lot of people out there. They're just like, oh, I'm so fucking. They're not. They don't know one politician's name. They're not part of any organization.
Yeah.
They don't know. Never donate a single nug to a
They're
veteran.
protesting though.
They're out there just. I'm like, dude. And I'm sitting there, and I'm such a nice guy. I'm like, hey, man, it'll be all good. And I'm like, seriously, but it's like they don't realize, like, dude. I eat mud. I come from the fucking mud. So if you're in the mud and you have the fucking balls and the drive to actually go all the way up and deal with these fucking turds on every level, then guess what? Kudos to you. I'm not trying to knock you down. I'm fucking clapping for you because I'm not a hater. These guys want to find any little fucking, your fucking corner of your bag isn't compliant, you fucker. It's like, God, if you had if you realize what it's like to run a business, it's like, and especially in California.
How long has it been?
The company's going on 6 years since I've had Sherbinsky's.
Wow. And since then.
Since what?
How long has it been since you had the garage?
2003. 2003, yeah. 18 years.
Fuck.
Yeah, going on 20 years.
One thing I do want to, so AFGU when did it turn to Sunset Sherbet? When did it turn to you having your own stuff?
When did you start linking with the boys?
Jigga and all that. Cause like we used to just hear, the Girl Scout cookie crew. And we had no clue. And like, I remember hearing like, it's a dude named Flux Capacitor. It's a dude named Jigga. It's Burn. No, it's Sure. And then like some of the homies that were from Cali used to tell us like, nah, it's this crew. And it was just all rumors, bro.
Yeah. Shout out to Cookie Fam and everything we did. It was fucking historic and history. It was the people involved and the way we did it. And it was just, everybody had a role and it was dope. And we created like a real global movement. But, okay, so on to the next chapter. I love where you guys are like, we're dropping it, we're picking up because these are like exactly, the right moments. But I was into Muay Thai. Like, I had a back problem and I wanted it. My boy, we were like, yo, let's get our black belts in jiu-jitsu. And my best friend was like, there was a Gracie Academy. And this was like when MMA was just like, there wasn't a bunch of Muay Thai. People weren't doing jiu-jitsu. Like it was underground.
Like big on that shit though.
And so I've always been a big, what's that?
NorCal, like Bay Area and up, like loves MMA.
They brought in the Gracies.
The
Gracie's brought in a lot of
San Francisco, right? They
black
brought it
belts
first.
They brought in a lot of black belts, like, and started opening up, like, especially the Gracies, like Gracie Baja. They started, bringing in black belts, and they were getting them their working permits and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was in the very beginning. And so that was a big part of the Bay Area culture. So that's why a lot of good gyms started there. But I was a Muay Thai instructor. I had a bad back. So the jiu-jitsu fucked with me like when I would roll. Yeah. So he ended up getting his black belt. I went all the way to top in Muay Thai and competed at a high level. And one of my students, I was an instructor, and it was at a Muay Thai gym, World Team USA. Shout out to World Team USA, all my team and family out there, my fight team. But I was an instructor there, and one of my guys, Dog Boy. What's funny thing, all these guys in SF and shit, they all had like crazy like nicknames too.
It seems so mad. Multiple lives. It's pretty dope.
Yeah,
sure.
It is, man. And so I'm just like a warrior, man. And I was always into like fighting, and I always loved the art and the technique of it. It wasn't just about throwing kicks and punches. It was really like studying the art and like, like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, the Muay Thai that I learned, like Ladrit and, real like military style Muay Thai it was a system. And so like if they threw a punch here, here's where your block, here's your counter. And then so once you learn that system, you could actually create an art out of it because you could really modify your kicks based on what techniques you had. So I was super into it. And I also studied, knife fighting. And I was actually at that time there was no one that really taught other than like bullshit stuff. Like not to knock
Mixed
certain, not
dojo.
to knock certain,
Yeah.
not to
I
knock
got you.
certain magas or anything, but there's certain things I don't know. You know, some of these
Guys that flip the gun around and shit. You're like, I don't know.
Steven Seagal, all these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But I ended up finding these real legit dudes that were fucking hardcore, and I would just pay them cash, and they would like fly out from New York and shit, and we would go up to Humboldt and shit, and we would do
Shit.
camping retreats.
Hell yeah.
And we would do trapping, and we would
Yeah.
fucking go in and do. I mean, we would hit our arms and
Can
like,
we do that
bro.
on video?
Yeah, man, I should show you some
Are you
disarming
down?
shit. I could show
Can
you
we
some
set up a
disarming.
trip?
Yeah, I would show you a
That would be
disarming thing.
sick.
Like if you grab something, even now I've been training years, but you come at me at any angle with a knife as hard as you can, and I
That's
guarantee
crazy.
that fucking knife will pop out of your hand and you'll be on the ground in 2
Let's go
seconds.
to a farm in NorCal and do some drills.
Yeah, but it was fun.
That's
they all
crazy.
smoked weed. We would go nuts.
Wow.
But anyhow, let me digress.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I ended up, Matt was this was like the Matrix part of it. That's kind of cool. But Matt
Okay.
was sitting there, straight, big old white boy, tatted all over. And I was like, hey, dude, who did your tattoo? Because like the coloring and the lining look really close to like tattoo I have on my back. Ends up being the same guy. We start talking, and there's tons of students, right? And I was talking like, oh, hey, man, you smoke? He's like, yeah. And I was like, we're going to go have some Thai food. You should come. So we ended up talking. Turns out he lives a block away from me, right? And I just had a newborn. I just bought a house. It was like big time in my life, right? I was doing Muay Thai. I was just like on my shit. And he lives a block away. So I go to his house and I fucking look down. He's got like soil down on the bottom, OG. He's got all his like dogs all over the place.
You're
He
like,
got fucking
ah.
fish. He's got all these guns, weed. I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, okay. So I'm hanging out with this guy. So then all of a sudden, like, we start to hang out. We're friends. I'm like, all right, man, see you after Muay Thai. Put the kids to sleep. Go smoke with my homie.
Yeah.
He's like, he's got like DMT. This is what back then too.
Wow.
All this crazy shit. There's all these characters coming out. This is where I met my whole crew, right? So
Okay.
one of the characters that would come through that place was Jigga, right? Another one was Pitt. Another one was Dog Boy, Matt, and they had this whole crew, and it was like, these guys were really like moving a ton of OG. They were like, they were part of the culture. Burner was part of this culture. They were all friends. I'm not from the Bay. I'm not a Bay cat. I'm from Sac. I grew up in Sac. I moved to the Bay when I was 19. So it was like, 98, I moved to the Bay. So I was never like part of like, I never grew up with those guys. They went to high school and shit like that. So we became friends though. Like Jig and I, he'd come over. This was the first time like I saw cherry pie. This was the first time I saw cookies, right? And Jigga would just come. I just want a head smoke. I'd be like, yo, where's that crazy Asian cat? Where's like, what's up? And he'd be like, what's up, bro? Like, check it out. Like, no one has this shit. And he would just come out of the woods every like once a month. He would have this shit. And the cherry pie had seeds. And it was like, he's like, it's got seeds. And I was like, seeds, bro. And he'd be like, trust, bro, trust. It's fire. I'd be like, all right. Like,
It's funny because you flip it now and you're like, back in the day, you're like, oh man, why? And then now you people like, oh, thank God. A seed? What?
yeah. But I mean, this was, I've never until that day or since have I ever bought weed with seeds in it.
Yeah.
But it became so notorious that if the cherry pie, if it didn't have seeds, it wasn't the real cherry pie. And when I tell you the tiniest bud would stink your whole fucking house. It literally, a lot of people couldn't grow it because it would get you busted because it was so stank. You could have 5 filters in there and it was disgusting. That shit ain't around anymore. Like it really isn't. Like the real cherry pie, I haven't seen that shit.
And you're saying seeds because it was probably unstable. It was just a badass genetic, but it was super unstable.
It would freak out. It would get seeds. Yeah. But
that was one of the badass original flavors coming around.
So cookies, Y Life, these were all ones that like he had. I don't know if you heard of
Yeah.
A lot of these cookie strains. So I was like, damn, this is fire. We became friends. He was crashing on my couch. He'd been through some shady shit, like with some guys and so we were friends. So I was like, yo, bro, like, and at that time I was growing OG and I was growing Afgoo. And I'd been growing it for years. And it was cool. But at that time, it was like, it wasn't 38 anymore. It was like 28.
Gotcha.
And I was like, okay. And it was like, this isn't, work still looks the same. And I go, bro, I need something fire. I go, seriously, I don't give a fuck what it is. I'm tired of this shit. And he goes, all right. So then we walked. I mean, this was all like right in our neighborhood, dude. Right. So we like literally, he's like, let's go. And we like went down the street, went past the little Chinese restaurant or whatever, and walked into a house. Next thing you know, whole fucking basement, just like 1 gallon pots. And I'm just like, what the fuck? It was like this room, right? We're walking through and he's making a little tunnel. And we just go to a little corner and he's like, take those. And I was like, hey, bro, I need something fire. And he goes, trust me, it's fire. And I go, all right. That was the Girl Scout cookies. So that was like, that changed shit for me. You know, big ups to
You
Jigga.
walked on a house. It was another house.
In San Francisco,
it
down
was
the
a
street.
Sunset house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, it's just like blocks, right?
What year do you think this is, Sherbinsky?
This is 10 years ago, 9 years, you know, 2010, 2011.
Wow, bro.
Yeah, maybe 2000, maybe earlier, because I've got seeds from 2011, you know, with the Burmese. So that 2010, 2011, because all those seeds was, so
you took two, you grabbed the two plants and smuggled them back to the house.
4-gallon pots and, you know,
put trash bags over them or something.
The first QP I sold of that, I sold for $1,400 to fucking my boy D. Shout out D. You remember the first QP, bro.
Some sticky Girl Scout.
And then I knew, I was like, all right, it's a game changer. And me and Jigga were partners, and like I grew the weed, and like he blessed me with genetics, and I was just, we were partners, and we got into shit. Weren't the best partners because we were both like, I'm an alpha and he's a creative and he's got his own vibe, and like, but we were like, what I love about that, and while I'll always honor that in him in that moment, it wasn't about Cookie Fam. It was about me and Jigga. Yeah. It was about me and him being homies. Me and that guy laughed fucking more. Like, he's a funny motherfucker. And like, we would just have these genuine homie moments. And when we did our project, and when he was like, hey man, let's get down in your garage and like, let's do this. And he brought a little Burmese pollen from he had from like a greenhouse or something. And it was like, he goes, this shit is black, bro. All I know is the shit I saw, the shit was black. Yeah. And he goes, so I had a Larry OG cut. And I didn't know it was Larry at the time, but it was a guy that I know that got it for me. It was the guy's thesis statement at UC Berkeley. This genetic that he made, he had a whole story on it, right? And so
it's the only college they'd ever let you do that.
So this is history
My
too.
thesis
Shout out
is
to the
a
homie
weed
that
plant.
did this. That was your thesis statement, bro, because this became part of history with gelato. So if you're listening,
wow,
big up. So I had all the OGs because that was the hottest selling shit, and I was growing them all. This particular OG was like, it grew faster, cloned fast, all the shit that the other OGs weren't good at. You know, OGs are like the hardest. It's like they're all finicky and shit.
That's why when you said 600s, I thought, oh man, that's nice. I bet the OGs love that nice light 600 over 1,000. And when you mentioned earlier, that's like, yeah.
So I had an OG, and then he brought in the Burmese and pollinated at the house that I had there, pollinated one of the layers, and that was the pink panties. Oh. So it was, I didn't have CO2. So
that's how the pink panties came about.
Beautiful.
And so I never really grew.
And you know what? Before this show, I asked him what his favorite strain from you was.
On camera.
Pink panties.
He just asked me.
He was like, not on no creepo shit, but the pink panties.
He asked me before this, behind the scenes. He says, we were doing a behind the scenes little video, and he says, what's your favorite strain from Stravinsky? I had a homie named Modern Epigenetics, this kid Michael, right? He had passed away. He actually got killed by his younger grower who worked for him over a Acapulco Gold strain. This is like a year ago.
Yeah.
He used to always come to me and be like, he would come over and he'd be like, oh, we're smoking, and he'd pull out pink panties, and it was like the coveted.
It's very medicinal.
Yeah. And I always say it's like do-si-do a little bit, but it's sweeter, but it's funky, but it has a very complex, when it's grown really well, it's so complex and different from anything else. It's beautiful strain, bro. Beautiful strain.
Yeah. So I made that in my little garage, man.
What did you come up with that name?
Yeah.
Because it had pink hairs, and full transparency, at first the name was Pink Pussy. Full transparency. And Maya,
but you were like, we can't do that.
No, I was down.
Maya from Ohm.
Yeah, because it was a female plant. I'm like, look, this is like, why not? Like, it's honoring the woman. It's not a negative thing. I was like, yeah, it's like, yeah, and it was pink, and I was like, nah, people be into it. And then my friend Maya from Ohm Edibles, and she's like, Mario, I thought about it, and I shouldn't be pink pussy. It should be pink panties or something, because it's nicer. And I was like, I don't know. And then I didn't really want her to influence the change in the name, but yes, Maya, you did. And so you get your credit. But yeah, so that's how we ended up.
Maya's awesome. I met her a few times. Great company too.
Maya is another one who was she was like the only woman that I knew that was fucking crushing the game. Like duffel bag girl, shout out, like one of the only ones that was like really doing it, dude. And like, she was hanging, and she was around a lot of tough guys, and she held her own, man. And she always was creative and made her own shit. And like got a lot of respect for her. So, and she's still here and she's doing great, man, and making awesome
Oh,
products.
she's crushing. Great edibles.
She was one of the only ones, you know, that was early on in the Bay and during all this. But anyways, so go back to the pink panties.
Yeah.
I grew it a little bit and I was like, all right. So I popped those seeds. This was the first time I'd never really done this and no one was telling me how to do it. Even like Jigga didn't have time. He pollinated things, but he wasn't really, I made a lot of mistakes, right? And I lost shit. I had to figure out on my own. And I ended up, he did tell me one thing, it ended up being a mistake, but he's like, just take the seed and put it in the flowering room and you'll see what happens, like what it is, a female or male. So like I took a pink panty, it was like this big. I stuck it in my grandma's basement and I had like a 10 lighter there. I was growing cookies and I was growing OG.
Hell yeah.
And so the pink panties, I went in like a week later and there was all this pollen everywhere. And I was like, oh, fuck. And so I pollinated my whole room and I was pissed that I lost all the money. I tell the story a lot, but this is how it happened. So the pink panty male pollinated the cookies and that's the Sunset Sherbet. And I rocked that. So I pheno hunted those seeds. That took 6 months or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Found that, did a little taste test. Sherbet, oh, this one's fire. And then
most of the time though, you're coming up with these names yourself. Like, well, everyone has like you're smoking with the homies and talking, or
so Sunset Sherbet was me, Jigga, and Kenny Powers, and we were sitting in Kenny's living room, and I was like, man, this reminds me of Rainbow Sherbet when I was like at Thrifties, because I could taste lime, I could taste berry, I could taste like, this is like everything. I was like, and then Kenny was like, hey, well, we're in the Sunset, so you should, instead of, and we didn't want to call Rainbow, but we're like, you should call Sunset Sherbet instead of Rainbow, show respect to our hood. And that's where Sunset Sherbet came.
That's sick.
You know, that was Cookie Fam.
That's something people can appreciate.
Dope collab there. Great name came together. Yeah.
Real meaning behind all of this shit.
Yeah.
You know?
And then so let's go through the rest of it. But so from the Sherbet, we did this is when Flux had come into the picture, and Flux had funded this little spot like over in the city, and Jigga went in there and took the Sherbet, right? I gave him some cuts. He went in there and built like these chambers, and it was like the mad scientist thing, but it was really like, it wasn't anything sophisticated or anything. Yeah. But I will give him like, so we ended up reversing the cookies and reversing the Sherbet, right?
Oh, wow.
The cookies reversed back onto the cookies and the Sherbet. It didn't do anything. Seeds weren't really, we didn't produce any seeds.
Even now people have trouble breeding cookies. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you breed just so for those of you that don't know, is like certain strains don't receive very well. Certain strains don't pollinate very well. So, especially for like feminizing and stuff. So you just got to find that out. But anyhow, the Sherbet that got reversed, and you reverse it by like spraying colloidal silver on it during flower. And then the female, plant produces pollen, which only contains female DNA. So when you put that on the plant, then there's only female seeds that are produced. That's what feminized is. So we put the Sherbet pollen onto the cookies, and that was the gelato. So those are all feminized.
Wow.
So that's where all the numbers come from. So
all the cookie.
Yeah.
And then how long?
That was at my farm.
And then when you said when you were chasing or when you were popping seeds of the gelato, you were just seeing things.
So I took stuff back. I had pounds and pounds of seed, like, cause I trimmed it all. I had it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I went in, and it was just from very few seeds, man, that I pulled.
Yeah.
And I did I started with 90 seeds, and we did that famous pheno hunt, and it was literally like those 90 seeds. And that's where the 45, the 41, the 33, the 25, all of the different gelatos came from, the 47, the 43,
all of these different.
And then, so what happened there too, is we had a deal, like, if we really want to get into like history and what it was like, I don't know if you guys want to know the truth.
I 100%
I don't know if people are scared.
I'm a heady grower.
They might not
want to know the truth.
Yeah. But
authenticity is 2021 all day.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep it 1,000. Like these are the genetics that we and at this time, guys, there's no protection on like your rights of your strain. Like if someone takes your shit, someone takes your shit, right?
Still like that now,
man. And this is a fact. And a lot of people got to understand the lineage in this. You'll understand like Connected, Alien Labs, a lot of a downline of brands that are pretty popular right now. And it came from like some shit that I don't really approve of and I don't put blessing on, which is, you know, broken contracts. And, you know, Jigga and I had basically given, you know, Connected our genetics, like the ones that they have, the 41, this 25, I give them a few that I didn't really want to rock, like the guava.
Right.
And so fast forward 6 months, all of a sudden, you know, they're not the businessman that I thought they were. And then they have our genetics. And at the time, gelato changed the game. There was nobody that had that shit. That shit was fruity gas and no one had ever really captured that. And so at that time, they had big money behind them. They had certain dispensaries. They had things that Jigga and I didn't have, you know, and then Burner was there just being Burner and he's just a businessman. And, you know, I never knocked him. I didn't then, I don't now. You know, but I'm a grower and I'm not a rapper and I need to like fight for mine.
Yeah.
I got a family. I got kids. Like I'm not playing games. Yeah. So the reality is, so they went on and basically we took L's on that, right? Like Jigga and I, and people already know the history of like how Connected with, you know, with their genetics. And
those were big strains.
I don't know how many decks I saw that was like gelato lineage and stuff when they were raising like a ton of money on that shit. Right.
Yeah.
And even then, like, and not to knock people that bred with the genetics since then, but there's other brands that were incubated through the genetics it was never honored or blessed or treated with respect. So full circle, going back, learn a lesson, guys, from like what happened with me is like, you know, right now with legality and right now with the way that like, you know, learn a lesson from me is that people, and when I talk about predatory techniques and tactics, these are the things that I'm talking about is like, you know, when you give people genetics and a contract is only as you can wipe your ass with a contract because you better have enough money to go up against these guys' lawyers. And a lot of times I've met time and time again. Oh, these guys are so great. You go to MJ BizCon, they invite you to the house, you get all this shit. You think they're so great. You're talking to your lady, big up in these guys. These are the guys that are fucking stabbing you in the back and ripping you off and taking your genetics.
Lots of nice dinners, lots of pats on the back.
All that shit.
And the contract's only as good as the people you're in contract with. I had an old businessman tell me that, like, oh, it's, you know, you can take it to court, but, and so giving people the genetics. So, and it's funny you say this because a lot of young growers are trying to go wreck.
Let me say this too.
Yeah.
The people that have been given the genetics or that have done it right or have done the work in, I fully respect and honor.
Yeah.
It's the people that do it like underhanded and like have stolen from me. You know, some people know the history, like my own family, like that kids I've raised have stolen from me and started their own brand and things like that.
Yeah.
And just like, full circle is like, even when we're talking about mushrooms and the community that I'm seeing being built, like this is the kind of shit I'm telling that community is like, guys, this whole trenches thing that you see in the cannabis thing, that is not mushrooms. That is not what we're doing over here. Gotcha. Right. This is like medicine. This is really spiritual shit.
Yeah.
Like it's tapping.
Don't let it go this way.
It's tapping in. Yeah. And guess what? Like it's much more evil to me. Like when, like with plant medicine, period, with cannabis, I see it. Yeah. But like with mushrooms, it's a different level, bro, because this is affecting people's, like, it's a different type of medicine that goes like deeper on healing. And so if you're talking about principalities of darkness, good and against good and bad, like it's important that the people that are in control of those type of medicines are people that are treated with honor. Treat people people like Carlos and Larry from Decrim Nature. That's why I support them. Yeah. When you sit down with them, we have conversations. These guys are like tapped in on deep ass level. Like not only do they understand it, and they also understand plant medicine, they're ingesting it themselves. They understand like the messages they're getting and what they need to do, like in terms of like what laws need to be created, who they need to do it with, and they're aligning with the right people. And guess what? It's happening. Yeah. Like they got it done in Oakland. It's happening. And I think Larry said there's like 30, 40, 50 cities that they're working with like right now that have initiatives. So I just want to bring attention to that. And also for people to don't support legalization with the psilocybin, the mushrooms and plant medicine. Support decriminalizing it, because that's going to create room for equity, you know, in the space for us and also for the BIPOC community. So we know that. I'm passionate about that shit, dude, because if we don't say something and we don't speak up, no one will. And then it's really just left up to people just to kind of push us along regulations, and then we get boxed out. And guys like you and I can't come up with $1 million to have our license, to have our little mushrooms. And it's like, that's not acceptable.
And that's how fast the weed industry went. Cause like, you know, we start brands and you have all this passion and you have lights up. Now people ask even, you know, like, man, where have you been? Or like, what's the, and it's like, man, you should see what you have to do to get in this industry as far as having a license and waiting on the city to come through, but you're paying rent the whole time, but you're also having to do that, you know, years. I know people who had a building for a year who just sat on a building for a year, you know, shit like that. But it's crazy. I mean, to go back to like where we came from too, you know, where things were so much more simple, even though it was still like crazy, you know, illegal and all that crazy shit back then. It was still like not like it is now with the predators, in my opinion. The businessmen are slick. But now you're onto it, bro. Like I can tell now. You see them a mile away. That's the key.
So going back before we get to
about surrounding yourself with good people.
Before we get to how you figured it all out, because it seems like right now you're in a very good place. Gelato comes. Where's the pivot?
37%. I'm about to be in a better place.
I'm hitting the log. I'm
that's crazy.
It gets you old school, dude. I'm like,
I mean, what it shows me too is terpenes come into effect, and it takes things really high too, because the terpenes you're having on a lot of this stuff is wild. So
fire.
People pass that up though. They ask for THC, but terpenes a lot too, and that's why that's testing so high. It's cannabis THC, but it's with the terpenes now that starts to boost that. I'm sure that's a big role.
Anyone that questions the lab or anything like that, look, everybody knows the Jello, even my outdoor, is consistently over 30%. And so like, who the fuck is going to lie and be like, well, let's push it up to 37. Like it's literally, normally it's 30, 32, 33, whatever. But this was like, wow.
We'll tell them to take some most.
This is my new breeding stock. All the stuff I'm doing now is like, people love Jello, and it's been the one that I've kept tight. Not really because I wanted to, but I was growing the other producers and stuff. And so now what's nice is, now that I've spent the last 2 years like understanding the seed game, really understanding, like I've never considered myself a breeder. I work with plants. Like by definition, am I? Yes, because I understand the science. I talk to people on airplanes and shit that are doctors and shit, and they're like, what the fuck? They're like, you just blew me away. And it's just like, what? This is shit. Like I just,
different,
you know, I'm shooting the shit. And where to me, that's the real knowledge.
They were thinking some dumb hippie grower, and you were like,
I could have a degree in botany and stuff, and I'm not going to know what until I do it, right? And I see it, and I've seen, oh well, when I did that, this happened, and just trial and error, you know, just the practice of it. But I humbly work with the plants, but I have passion about it, and I've like worked with them, and I've now I've the last couple of years. Like I went out and met some of the masters in San Sebastian, Spain. And I spent time with some of the best like breeders in the world and saw what they were doing, the lab equipment they were using, the techniques, the storage. I mean, I'm talking jars like this, dude, of just like, and how that affects the world, right? Into community and cannabis. And like, I'm like people that sell little packs of seeds and shit. You look at people that really produce on mass levels like that. It's like, it's crazy. You learn. And then I just take even people that I'm learning in different garages breeding still, like, people that get into it, that are passionate about it, understanding the game a little bit better. But now I really feel like I have something special to offer. Again, this was a special offering, like with Gelato. Now, I'll give you an example. What I'm going to be doing every year now is all the seeds that are out that are like fire, that all the new strains, you name it. I'm not going to discriminate. I'm doing a massive like pheno hunt with all of that new shit because I'm collecting all of it. These are all my friends. And I'm going to collect all this, and I'm going to do a massive feed, which I'm doing this year right now. Be happy to have you guys up to the farm, or you can definitely share some of the flower.
Be stoked.
But then document this in a catalog, pictures, have the flower. Every year, do like the drops of all that. So big up the growers, the breeders. This was my selection. And then I'll also offer those for clones. I'll also offer those for like seed selections. So that'll be a yearly thing. And then I'll be taking like Gelato lineage. Right, the new one is going to be the Jello and the sherbet, but I'll be crossing that into like 15 different things, right?
Wow.
So, and then I'm really going gas. I'm really going back to the gas. Like Mandelbrot, big up to HSO, my partners for many years now.
Humboldt Seed Organization.
And Team HSO. And we've been really, they gifted me with an incredible Mandelbrot OG male of some seeds that they were gifted when they were actually working for Mandelbrot. Rest in peace. I never knew him personally, but definitely understand who he was. And you're talking about some fire ass OG gas from the hills. A lot
OG
of people,
and Humboldt. Mandelbrot was an OG and Humboldt. Yeah.
A lot of people I smoke the new stuff with, they go, man, I haven't smoked this. This reminds me of high school. And that's what I'm going for.
I love
that's
that.
what I'm going for. Is that shit that we used to pick up in those packs in our truck and shit.
How'd you come up with the name Jello?
So anyway, on the genetic side, but Jello was just, I like Jello and gelato.
I love that.
And I figured, well, I can just change the J to a G because I don't want to get hit like our boys over.
It's going to start happening left and right these days. Half my strain. I started looking at my library and I'm like, yo, half my strains I got to rename. I got to come up with something better.
We were talking about names too, and like, how gelato. Because we did cookie, we did this. I was like, and this was before like any cakes or anything like that, right?
This is before anything. I'm gonna be honest. It was like the strains you're hearing is like so White Widow. It was all Amsterdam style strains before you guys came onto the picture and was like, oh, Girl Scout cookies and sherbet and pink panty. People like, what?
I want to get back to too.
Blue cheese, White Widow.
When things were happening with gelato, how did you come back around and get with Jigga? And like that episode on Marijuana Mania, you guys seemed that you had your shit together. You know what I mean? You boys were doing it.
That was
talk about what led up into that. You know what I mean?
You want the real story?
Yeah, I've watched that thing 5 times, maybe 10.
Yeah, we love that episode.
Once a month, I watch it.
I'm gonna tell a little.
We're fans of the industry. We love everybody.
Since we're on, first smoke of the day, and we're gonna go ahead and do some behind the scenes stuff. But like at that time, what's so funny is me and Jigga were beefing hard. And like it was,
people never know this.
Yeah, we were just at that point where like it wasn't cool. In full transparency, Jigga's my brother. Jigga, I love you. There's nothing I would say here that I wouldn't say to your face. That's my brother.
OG in the game. Yeah, Jigga 415 on Instagram
for Jigga. He taught me. He really introduced me. And Jigga, I'll tell you, I hope you see this and I hope you hear this. But man, you really introduced me to my love for this plant and taught me that connection, like with the plant and like. He's got a gift for that, bro. Like, there's a lot of things. Jigga's not, not always the easiest person to deal with. Anyone that deals with Jigga knows this. He'll admit it himself. But his passion and his commitment to this game is unquestionable. So much love for him. But we just, going back to the breeding and Jigga too, like why we connected and why I believe this all happened and why it was so special is because when we did this shit, bro, nobody in the world, our family, our kids, nobody mattered. Like we would get high and we would sit there and be like, bro, and he'd sit there and he'd be like, bro, look at this. It's so fire, bro. Like, have you ever seen anything like this? This is my boy Jigga. And trust me, I do imitations.
No, I love it.
Bro, I love look at this. This is special, bro. You don't understand. Like, this is special. Like, we need to show respect and honor to this, bro, because this is real. And we'd sit over the fucking seeds and we'd literally pray because I'm a super spiritual dude. And I was like, bro, we doing this? He's like, this is how we're going to do this, bro. And people would come to me, hey, dog, what's up? Where the dad? We'd be like, get the fuck out of here, bro. And we'd get pissed and we'd clear the room and we'd be like, peaceful, bro. And we'd pray over our shit and be like, God, please, like, bring healing and bring, like, to the world. Let this be, like, bring healing. And our intentions were just dial, bro. And I swear on everything I love, that's why this all manifested. I believe that from the bottom of my heart.
We're big on that.
And that's why
speaking.
That's why Jigga and I, no matter what, bro, it's real as it's as real as like is this real.
But then in life with alphas, dude, and in life with growers and breeders, I know I had a bunch of guys around me who, but then, so that episode comes though of Marijuana Mania.
So respect to the gods and respect to like Jigga and like that whole process. And I wanted to explain that about like how gelato, and there was a lot of people that were part of that. Like Instagram was a huge part of that. Burner was a big part of that. Powers was a big part of that. Flux Capacitor was a big part of that because we were a team, dude, and we ran and we bigged up everybody. And Instagram was just starting to pop up. And no one had pictures of like the shit that it didn't.
Hell no.
And we knew how to use the camera. We knew how to, and if someone saw that.
Most about it.
And so at that time, there was a street war. A lot of people don't know. But like on the streets, people were trying to claim cookies. And other people other than like Burner and Jigga and these people. And there were, and then so we were all like on Instagram, like, who the fuck are you? And it was street, bro.
Yeah.
It wasn't no kind shit. It was like, nah, bro, this is our fucking
like
shit. It's still like that. But this is what I mean by the trenches, right?
Yeah.
This is the streets.
That's what
So real shit.
But that's why
you
we're
can
here to
say what
talk
you
about
want.
this shit.
If you're gonna be at a show, if you're gonna be somebody, guess what? You're gonna be out somewhere.
Yeah,
And you're gonna have to face somebody. And if you're fake as fuck, you're gonna have
it's
to
gonna
face
shine
it, bro.
through. Authenticity.
You can't be fake, dude. You're gonna be at a show or you're gonna be somewhere and you're gonna get knocked out, dude.
Yeah,
And it's just the reality. And look, I'm tough and I'm big, but there's other people that are a lot tougher. And if you're not real with your shit, and if you're not about your shit, like eventually it's gonna catch up to you. And I'm proud, like I've walked these streets. I've done everything with integrity. I've never fucking stole from nobody. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I operate with integrity. You know, that's that's what the brand is built
sometimes
on.
crews too break up for 100 different reasons, bro.
I mean, Stravinsky's never would have manifested. Like Cookies is nothing ever happened to them. You know, if anything, they're like, I'm glad Jigga and Burner, like, you know, there was beef there for a long time. That was always a strife, like with us, because I'll go back to the episode. But when I first came to the situation, Burner just invested, you know, in Cookies. It was just starting. And so those two guys weren't getting along. And I was like friends with both of them. And it was always like a beef because like, Burner ended up getting the Cookies clothing and Jigga wasn't part of it. And it was a problem in the beginning because, you know, he, you know, rightfully so felt like and so they worked it out since and it's all good, you know, but at the time it was,
he's like, I am Cookies.
And, you know, and it took a lot, man, because there was some things that happened. I'll let Burner maybe tell you on one of his shows about that, but like, you know, respect for what those guys did and where they're at now. But, there's no one giving us a handbook on how to do this, right? Yeah. No one's giving us a handbook on how we're to do. We're all like raising kids. We're going through shit. We're running around. We're trapping. We're making money.
And grow life. And grow life. So now you got that whole element
none of us
of that.
are polished businessmen as well. I'm a real estate agent. I know some business. I knew the most business.
But passion for the plant and then everything else came under that.
And then Jim and I was like, bro, we need to do shit proper. We need to do. And he was always like he was just, he's a creative. He's
free
gone for a month, right? I'm like, dude, can we? And so that's how it kind of was. And so that created a lot of tension, right? Because I'm in there scrubbing the trays and I'm doing a lot of trench work. And so that's where it was like, we had a big falling out. So that like the night before that filming, it was my birthday or something. And he called me and he's like, hey, bro, like, love you, dog. We good. And I was like, okay. And so he came through, all of a sudden film crews pop and like, hey, Burner's coming too, dog. We're going to do this thing. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
That was up on my tribal property. I hadn't talked to Jigga in like 2 months. Yeah. Right? Before that show, I hadn't talked to Jigga in like 2 months.
That's big up though. That's dope. He's like, hold on, dude. I know something good for us. Like,
yeah, but big, like it was.
Slid it on you.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. But I was kind of like, I'm the nice guy I am. I was like, you know what? You know, because look, I'm loyal. That was my brother, right? Hindsight's 2020. But I went in there, but that wouldn't have gone down because we were beefing.
Yeah.
And so, at that time too, I was like, all right, let's see. I still thought that maybe we could hold it together and we could get the band back together.
Yeah.
But look, that episode ended up being like legendary. People still talk about. I had Burner in the wheelbarrow with the buzz.
Yeah.
And shit. Like, it was fucking funny.
Oh, bro, and just that property
it worked to everyone's advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying.
Sometimes you don't always see what goes on behind the scenes.
Thank you for telling us the fucking.
But you got Jig over there showing you how to breed, and then they did the whole thing. It's a great.
Everybody's making moves, and everybody's on their own agenda, and that's what people need to understand in life. And we're all learning as we go.
But we're looking at it
figured out.
Yeah,
we're still fucking learning.
But we're looking at it. We're seeing him out in this property with 150 huge plants,
right? I mean, look, it's long. I can laugh about it and talk about it now because it was a long time ago, you know. And look, since then, Jigga and I have had many conversations, and like I said, that's my brother. But this is part of history, man. This is No,
that's why we want to talk about.
It's okay to talk about
not about the beats,
not about the fake bullshit.
Part. No negativity.
Here's the
We're
nice
just
side
real fans of the community.
Life flows.
And this is real history, U.S. history. For cannabis, it's specifically California.
Yeah,
and for all the cats
basing out of the Bay, NorCal, where it originated from,
the Mecca.
For all the people that are in the trenches now, this story is for you guys, right?
Yeah,
because
this is where you came from,
right? You said, hey man, can you tell them about people like where they're at now, right? And so where I think that relates is a lot of you guys are there now. You got your crews, you got your boys, and you're going through a lot of that shit, right? Where it's like, fuck, man, homie ain't pulling his weight. He ain't doing, you know, and there's different things where you have beefs and these are supposed to be your brothers. You know what, man? Like, in the end, sometimes you got to like go your separate way. This wouldn't have manifested if I didn't go my separate way, right? Because it's almost like something telling you that there's something more, there's something different. You need to like, you're like, it was cool.
There's different paths.
Yeah. And that's okay, right?
That's
because going back to like, there's enough for all of us. This plant is so, it gives so much.
Yeah.
And it's such a, the market is so insatiable that you can still, even now, you can get into the game. And if you have something unique, you can make money and you can make a nice living. And so,
absolutely.
So like understand that when you're working with people, surround yourself with people that you like and that you get along with and you want to work with and that you respect. And, you know, other than that, just keep it pushing. Like if there's no room for, you know, and sometimes if you do got to part ways, it's okay. Because like even with Jigga, we didn't talk for years. Now it's cool. We're family.
You guys are chill.
Yeah. And it meant a lot to me. Like when we talked, him and I were like, bro, you know, and it's the same way I talk about him and I big up him now. Like I can't take him out of like the history. Right. Oh. And I honor and respect him for like what I learned. And like that's every conversation, I don't leave his name out. Right. I'm not afraid of it. It doesn't discount what I've created. Yeah. Right. If anything, it's like, I always felt like we should have been like Wu-Tang, right? I was always like, Cookie Fam's dope. Like we should all be like Wu-Tang, right? Like, and now it's kind of evolved into that. Yeah. Like Jig is kind of behind the scenes, but I like what Powers Up is doing, you know, that he's building his brand. He's building up the genetics that he's had. And I think that's just the way it should be with everybody, right? Everybody should be able to take if they're creative enough, and you have the if you're inspired and you have the passion, and if you want to come up with some dope packaging, and if you want to invest in IP and you want to really dive into the industry, then let's go. There you go. Let's work together. Maybe you can cultivate my genetics because I don't have the 10 million to build the facility, or maybe you can distribute it because you're good at it. You know, exactly. Like, that goes back to the thread of the Prop 215 and what I come from in San Francisco, where we were all working together. We hadn't figured it out. There was no book, there was no handbook saying this is how you do it, guys. It was all just going, hey bro, let's meet up and have dinner and we'll figure out how we're going to do the grow tomorrow. Cool. And it was like a fist bump and a fucking.
And you're like, man, I hope this guy doesn't rob me.
Yeah, no, but
you know what I'm saying? Like the underlining.
There was a lot of that too.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when they left that day on the episode on your farm and stuff? What was going through your head? Like, what are the next moves and shit? Like what happened from there to really, you know, solidifying yourself as like, oh, now I'm Shabinsky.
Because you were saying from the outside, it looked like, you know,
at that time, those guys doubted me hard because they're like, tribal, bro, you ain't never going to get your license. You need to get a compact. And it wasn't really so much burner, but like, that's where Jigga and I really went separate ways. Is I believed in working with the tribal community. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud that since we parted, the people that I brought on, we were the first people to lobby for the indigenous community, right? And the natives. I believed in it because I was like, what are you talking about? Like, we took the fucking plant and all their livelihood and everything. How can I not go back and give what I've done and offer it to these guys? How can I not?
That's dope.
And that's just was like to the core of me, right? I was like, no, I'm going to be that fucking guy. I'm going to be that guy. And so, dude, we were like the first or second licensed the tribes in California.
I heard about it. I heard about it in Florida.
First, but like one of the first. Yeah. And we were lobbying. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars like contributing to like tribal law, regular law, and not to be excluded through sovereign rights, but to be just included and say, hey, we'll pay taxes. We don't want to be treated any different, but just include us. Don't leave us out. And what gets difficult with the tribal community is they have certain laws and sovereign rights where, you know, they don't always have to follow all the laws that, you know, and they're not part of a county. So they're not part of Mendocino County.
Same with taxes.
Even though they're in Mendo, they're not part of it. So the sheriffs are like, well, what do we do? And so it wasn't until we lobbied and we basically created the laws with the tribal community and the tribal legal council. And we figure out like, all right, how do we do this? And it was really just a matter of saying, we don't want to be left out. We'll do everything the same way. So we're fully compliant, you know?
So that was a tribal land grow, that one that they came to.
Yeah.
Wow. That was an epic spot.
Yeah, it still is. I still have it. I'm still cultivating it.
I got a crazy question though. Like we're called First Smoke of the Day. What was the first time you smoked weed?
Oh, way back in the time.
Like the first time you ever smoked weed. We ask everybody.
Before we jump into the next phase.
Like, what was the first time you smoked weed?
1987.
Yeah.
That was a year before I was born.
Yeah, on the side of my house
shit.
on Blue Springs Way in Citrus Heights, California. My mom, my older sister, her boyfriend, and myself were sitting at our kitchen table. And
Hell yeah, no, perfect timing. I love it. People, I love
my
hearing
mom
these
was
stories.
a free spirit. She was a nut. She would like let my older brothers and sisters have parties at the house, and she'd be like drinking. Like she was like, my mom was a
Having
fucking
fun.
nut.
Go ahead. Yeah,
She was
hell
free
yeah.
spirited. She was a hippie. She was like, she was like cool. So my sister was like 15. I was, 10, I think 10 or 11. And they go, hey, we're going to go outside and smoke a joint. And I was like, really? I was like, that sounds interesting. And I said, Mom, I was like, I want to go out there and smoke a joint with them. And she's like, okay. It was like some Mexican, like he's pulling out seeds. He's pulling, this is 1986, right? 7, pulling out seeds and shit. And frankly, I went on the side of the house. I smoked like half of it. It didn't do anything to me. So like, yeah, I was like, nothing. So then,
Wow.
yeah, and that was the first experience. And I didn't smoke or do anything. That was, I was like 6th or 7th grade, 6th grade. And so I didn't touch weed until freshman year. And then I was at Roseville High School in Placer County, and everybody's older brother or somebody was growing weed, or they had a fucking Toyota pickup truck and they were going to Humboldt and the whole shit. And so that was like where I got introduced to, this was like 1991. Up in, Placer County, and just, that was the first time I saw real like fire. Like
what strains were going around right then? Do you remember any of the strains that you used to see back then?
Blueberry was one of them. That was like, that one was like the real one from Humboldt. I don't even remember a lot of names. I remember the blueberry specifically because it was just that smell and the look, but a lot of the strains, I don't even, a lot of the ones like I think like Trainwreck and some of these really old school ones, but I wasn't getting OG, no sours.
A lot of Dutch genetics, I feel like back then, probably.
Yeah,
like
it was green weed.
Dutch.
It was green weed, right? It wasn't OG. It wasn't purple. It wasn't sour. It wasn't anything. It was just like green weed that was good.
And you were like, it smells like blueberry. Like that was the big thing, was that it's blueberries or it's Durban poison or it's
Yeah, I think that was DJ Short's Blueberry.
Great.
That was actually
them and Dutch Passion both did a great blueberry set. In Florida, we used to grow the Dutch Passion blueberry, and man, unbelievable. Same with the grapefruit. We used to grow a cut of grapefruit that now we didn't have hash back then. Like we didn't know about hash, so now it would have been massive, right? Grapefruit hash, fuck. But how many strains have you lost? I bet that you're like, dude, remember that one? Like, God, I'd love to have that back.
Some of them I can get back, but like I love Chem 91. That was always
Fire.
Like before I smoked any of the
How do you
cookie.
feel about the originals coming back soon, or where things are headed right now?
I think
Or
it's
if
great.
things are watering down too much with what people are doing. Do you have
They're definitely using your genetics.
what's your opinion on that?
Man, so going back to what I'm doing with the genetics, like I'm doing like large pheno hunts and really documenting and testing indoors. Like
100 lights, right?
I have 100 lights
just for pheno.
I have 100 lights in LA.
So tell
I
us
partner
all
with
about
Culture
that.
Cannabis. Yeah, man. I've been telling my partners and the executives I work with, I'm an executive for Sherbinski's. I'm on the board. And, my CEO, Steven Kim, I brought him on about 8 months ago. He's been just killing it, right? And now I have a great relationship with him. And I just was like, hey, I need the biggest thing, full transparency, my biggest challenge for Sherbinski's was not getting a big cultivation early on, because I had all the genetics. No one had it. And it was such a big investment that we were investing more in like to the brand and certain things, which gave us a big advantage now. Yes. But then the cultivation side I was lacking in, right? So I couldn't do breeding. I was like stuck to greenhouses and outdoor. It was hard. And I had an indoor, but it was like, a couple hundred lights, and it wasn't enough to feed a California market.
Right.
So what I told him, I said, we need more lights and I want to get into more concentrates. We need pre-rolls, all the shit.
Love it.
So we just focused, and now I've got collectively, like 1,200 lights now, like that.
Wow.
And then through one of the partnerships with Culture Cannabis, big up to Culture Cannabis, my partners, I think they've got 16 retail locations. By the end of next year, they should have well over 25 around. So they're going to be very competitive in terms of the cultivation. In terms of the dispensary models or cannabis retail, rather, I think is a better term.
And so we're going to be getting all the classics, obviously, but then now all the remixes that you're working on.
Yeah. So stuff I've had and I haven't been able to really like test and scale. Like, so right now I'm giving them 50 strains, 12 cuts, 50 different strains. That's going into 2 rooms at our Hunter Light facility here in LA. So you guys are going to be seeing a lot of video of that. And then what I want to do is now
taste testing party.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man.
But look, here's the thing. People do it on small scales. If you look at guys like Jay Beezy, if you look at other breeders, right? But I'm putting it out there, and anybody wants to challenge me, is that I've got the largest indoor license breeding facility and testing facility in California, if not the nation. And that's 100 lights license that is dedicated to testing. So what my answer to blowing the lid off of all this stuff and these little strains and what people want to do is I'm going to be making so many seeds, and I'm going to be using things like Jello as a pollinator, which is hitting 37%. I'm going to be taking every genetic, and trust me, every single strain, all the ones that you think even I can't get my hands on, I can get my hands on every single strain. And I'm going to be pollinating with these high THC, and I'm going to be being true to the gelato genetics for Shabinsky's. I'm also going to be working outside of and working with certain breeding projects with certain partners. And the thing is, now that we're going to be seeing everything done at such a high scale and such a rapid pace, like, okay, the next one's going to be this as a pollinator. This, what is good? All right. And then we're going to be pulling out, because we're testing it all.
But off your main block, off your main.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this one hit 35%. Yeah. Okay, that stays in this next run. And then we're documenting it. And then we're literally going to have people like Rohan Marley, which is a good friend who's, Marley family lineage that's honored myself to being a breeder for a lion
hotels.
Order.
They do the whole thing.
For Rohan, big up Shaggy and Legacy Council for what he's done bringing us together. But
Shaggy from North Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's the homie.
I'm looking to bring Shaggy.
Shag.
That's my brother. That's my brother.
Yeah. So LAOG. Come on.
Absolutely. Man. So I've dedicated, my life and sat in front of Rohan and said, hey man, we're bringing honor back to the Marley, name when it comes to cannabis. They had some partners, some corporate stuff. And I don't feel like they feel, or I feel like the products that they put out in terms of the flower represents who their family is and that legacy.
Love to hear that. So they want more.
I'm dedicated. Yeah. I told them, I go, bro, I dedicate my life. I promise you, we will not put a single bud in a jar until you find something and that we're proud of. And we're going to grow it right. And so guys like Shaggy, he's bringing in people like Culture and going, Mario, you know what? Fuck these guys. I know who's who. You need to go and work with you. And guess what? It's like a match made in heaven, because Shaggy's good people.
He's good people. I've talked to him. He hit me up. We talked, and I was like, that's dope. He puts together great things like that. He does.
And so Rohan Marley, for example, I want him to come in and see, I don't want to be selecting and be like, yo, which plant do you gravitate towards?
There you go. I love
this. This is going back into our primal instincts and allowing people to be part of that experience. And
super cool.
And guess what? All these guys, man, I won't name names, but I've gone to people and been like, certain people that I kind of been like, hey man, let's do a project. And they're just like, oh yeah, cool, man, cool. And then certain people, Fields, man, Skittles, we've locked in. We're going to do something official. That's something I've been waiting to happen. Other than him, all these other cats, bro, they're kind of just, they got my genetics, but they don't want to do something with, and I'm actually trying to show them up. I don't really need it. So now that people have shown their colors, I'm like, okay, cool.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna throw so much shit out that we're going to be finding shit that just is other people aren't going to have, because we're going to be doing it at such a high rate.
So when as you're finding keepers, you're just plugging them into.
Then it goes in. We're going to be doing potency testing, terpene testing, and then I'm going to actually be washing some of them. So I'm going to have a library and a list, and this is my vision in terms of how I'm breeding and where I'm taking this. Mm-hmm. And this is based on everything I've learned across the world, from all the people I mentioned before, from Spain to HSO to all my people I've worked with domestically, everybody. It's about doing large testing, identifying it by eye and by appeal, pulling those in, everything else goes out. Still can go to secondary testing if you really have the production, but then pulling those keepers that you're getting based off visuals. And you can do this in a greenhouse. You can do it outdoor. It can pass certain levels of like THC testing. It can reveal a lot to you. And I'm proving that right now. And
wash numbers,
I'm going to be
which is huge, just like you said.
So then you look at those numbers and you partner with labs. Like I partner with labs, like Abstracts, big up to Abstracts, my partners. They do all my terpene analysis. They create, botanical versions of the terpene profile. So I can do partnerships with like drinks with companies like Pepsi or Cola or things like that will open up big
that's
box.
what you're working on.
Yeah, that was a little thing. I'm going to pass on that. We'll come back to that sometime. But yeah, it's things like that where it's like going more into food and beverage. So companies like Abstracts are studying the different terpene profiles and identifying how we can like actually work with these guys on the level and the scale they want to, which I think is going to be big. Like you're seeing, like we're going to be launching a beer next year. There's a lot of more people. You're seeing terpenes in drinks. You're seeing terpenes in fragrances.
Yeah.
Big up to, my girlfriend, Victorine. She has a Fires product, Dusted, and there's a lot more awareness into like toxic products that we're putting on our bodies, like even with our perfumes, our colognes. And I think, one of the things that we stand for, especially as a couple, is sort of like bringing awareness to the community and to women. These type of perfumes that you spray on your neck, and just to educate these women and men too and this is one of the things that she taught me that really raised my awareness. Is a lot of times we want to spray it on our neck, but our neck is where it really goes right into our endocrine system and our endocannabinoid system, and it can affect our hormones. And so for men, this can do things like give us boobs. It can affect the way that we work. Can, for women, it can affect their cycle. Hormone, all that. And so this is things that we need to be aware of. And so there's also fun new products I'm going to be coming out that kind of speak to that. And also I brought these, like one of the things that, I'm passionate about is like protecting my growers too. And I've seen glasses out there that like Method 7 and certain other brands, but certain things they don't have splash guards. Or when I'm working and I'm scrubbing or I'm in the trenches, like sometimes my glass is going to fall off. And I know even with trellis, sometimes I've had my eye poked with trellis and it literally can lose your sight. So
I mean,
these are
with home growers, it's tight. You're talking tight quarters with a lot of times.
Yeah.
These are beautiful.
So I just want to make something that like is for my growers, and so Stravinsky's, we invested into this and we partnered with the guys out of New Jersey. So all American made.
I love this. I love you think about the little stuff.
Yeah. Just creating products that are like from a grower, for growers. And I think like just raising awareness too, that a lot of people, it's not so much about the glasses, but a lot of these growers, they work indoors and they don't wear glasses. And the reality is this shit can make you blind. It really can. And you need to protect your eyes and really like,
holy
I love
fuck,
it.
You look bad.
Doesn't he?
I'm fucking ready, bro. Hell yeah. I see some pink panties.
Where's the Bud Light when we need it?
I see some pink panties right here and some gelato over this way.
Croaks.
This is
damn.
This is gangster, man. I love this.
No joke.
Yo, you know what though? I love this shade though. Like the shade they're throwing off, and I love the wrap. These are super comfortable. These are dope, man.
These
come really like
the gasket inside. Like so, if you're mixing chemicals or if you're mixing like
soft.
nutrients,
you feel that it's literally. Yeah. These are like, oh wow,
so that's
man.
A splash guard, so water or anything isn't going to get into your eyes.
pH up, pH down. That's like a big thing that they always say is going to be an issue with OSHA one day. Is that the only thing growers work with that's actually toxic is pH up and down, meaning like you splash that in your eye, you might go blind.
Yeah.
You get something in your mouth, you might probably have to go to the hospital.
You drop it on your hands, it turns white.
Oh,
done.
It's all slimy and shit.
Fire.
Sick. Right? No, these are
with
fire.
The croaks in the back. I mean, if I had a bullet rocket or something.
People say, "Oh man, you should have made them black," but it's like, fuck no. When you're in the garden, the orange just pops so hard.
I love the way you go. You're branding and marketing, and you said about working with good people.
Out.
I saw you with G-Put, right?
Yeah.
And then you work with Poster Child LA?
I formerly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only way I know that, bro, is because I'm a big fan of yours as well. And I see the moves you make with your branding. And I'm also someone that's big around cannabis, meaning like, yeah, you got cannabis, but I'm big on like who's going to be the first person working with Toomey? Who's going to be the first person working with, collabs like that? That Astra you guys did was
so
like
you had the
game changing.
Barney's collab. How did that come to fruition? How did even though R.I.P. Barney's, man, they're rolling
that was legacy.
Ungrateful. We love Barney's, but
that was
the fact that you got in there before that was fucking amazing.
That one I get a lot of comments about. So even though it wasn't, to me, it wasn't quote unquote a success, it wasn't like a moneymaker, but there's certain things like when you're building a brand that are just benchmarks, I guess. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been an advocate for the plant, and, coming from being around guys like, Perone and just
cracks me. I love this. I know. I love it. These are dope. I love it. We're gonna keep going.
Where's mine, man?
I love it, bro.
Hey, fuck it.
I'm not laughing at you, big dog.
No, but you're right. Hell yeah. No, this is what's up,
you look
dude.
good at him.
Hell yeah.
It'll be time.
Hell yeah.
But now that we're high and we're
bro, this is fucking what's up.
Every day
everything's off popping. But we might just have to wear these when we get high now.
I know.
Dude, if you did these and introduced these to the shrooms, I mean, these might be at the range.
You're right. That's a good play.
But you might be at a booth.
But he's saying the Barney's collab. Like, what led up to that? And then you had your Complex Con drop. If you don't mind talking about that, because like they were like no weed companies, and then I'm like,
you always seem to be like the weed company.
It's called being persistent.
I know.
Yeah,
we're not a weed company. We're a brand.
Yeah. Look, we're always just trying to. People are always like saying that this is designer, and the way we design the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
We always had like the luxury consumer in mind, whether be it like a wealthy woman or just like a hip hop star who just fucking got his Louis bags and he wants just fire shit. Because a lot of the branding that I saw in the cannabis space, even like 5-6 years ago, was really like
mom, pop.
Yeah, it was like cartoon characters, really juvenile. And I'm like, this is not elevated. This is not fire. Somebody who's wealthy and rich, they're not gonna want this fucking packaging. This is whack.
Doesn't look trustable.
So then with the whole design and where I took the brand was, I was like, I need to create a brand that's like fucking high end, like a Gucci, a Louis. I want to be that, because if someone's saying that my weed's designer, and we coined that term, right? People are like, dude, that's designer weed. That's designer weed. And I sat there and I go, well, if it's designer don't look like fucking cartoon characters and shit. Designer is very simple and chic, and
it's not Mickey Mouse smoking a joint, or it's not some crazy.
So I sought out to create that in the space.
Damn.
And I felt like and at first it was like, oh, I want to be the Hermes of cannabis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we designed kind of the Hermes of cannabis, which is clandescent. And guess what? We were like, nah, we're not doing that, because that brand, what I mean is our design looked just like that.
Gotcha.
And I was like, nah, make the orange brighter, make it more fun. Let's come up with this dope print. And then it was like, boom, Trubisky's was born, because cannabis isn't Hermes. It's not a fucking leather handbag. It's spiritual. It's magic. It's a plant.
And it's
so
a grower.
I want it to be more
that
fun.
was coming from you. That's you saying like, hold on one second. Like, here's a little bit of me in here. And now this is what you got.
Yeah, but
For sure.
It's a little more of the plant, right? Because like I wanted the plant to speak, and the plant is fun, right? It's designer and it's high end, but it's fun. And I just don't gravitate to a lot of these brands that are quote unquote elevated or high end or designer, but it just looks like you're buying a leather handbag or something, right? There's no soul.
It's about the flower.
Yeah.
It's about the fire in there. We talk a lot about fresh flower.
It's about aesthetics. It's about like, even with a flower or a plant, the reason why cannabis smells is because thousands of years ago, when it grew in the wild, that's how we would find it, and that was our medicine. So it's the same with the aesthetics of our brands that we create, bright colors and things. Like naturally, if you look through a thing, like right there, whatever's on that, my eyes just stopped right at that, and it's orange.
Yeah. Trichome production was for pests, basically pests now, right, would get trapped before they would eat it. Or if, let's say a deer would eat it or something, it would trip out, right? So it was kind of like, everything about the plant, like you're saying, is for a reason. Yeah. It's not like the way it responds, the way it puts on trichomes, the way it all that is for a reason, you know?
Even with the psilocybin and the mycelium network, that's like even a whole deeper thing about how we're all connected. And
I read mycelium running.
bro. Shit.
Yeah.
Next time we might have to do a microdose for the second one.
Or a massive dose.
From Oakland, some Michael.
Yeah, bro. You need to have my boy Oakland Hype on, Reggie. Yeah, or even like Decrim Nature, bring awareness to what they're doing, because I like what you guys are doing, man. And I think like it's not just about telling people stories, but it's honoring the people that did it, which I think you guys are doing a great job of doing that.
We're working to pay homage first and give everyone a platform to lift their brand up in a positive light. You know what I mean? We're like everyone else, fans of the community, fans of the culture, and we love doing this shit. So
yeah,
that's the community that I like being part of. And that's the vibe. I think that's the vibe of the cannabis community, at least the one that I want to be in.
I've dedicated 18 years. I know he brings it up all the time, but I've shared my life with the plant for 18 years in a million different ways. That's been my girl, my kids, I know, right? I was like, hold on one second before I really trip out. But yeah, I mean, I feel you, man. I'm still on that path of like the plant.
I mean, we're doing shit. I mean, come on, this is work. I mean, I'm like, I love what I do.
Talk about, since you have a family and things are different now.
Wow. Yeah.
And you come from the street life. And I know a lot of people worry about this and a lot of people want to know about this. Talk about when you were able to find stability in kind of your brand and legitimize and not have to worry about so much shit anymore and know that, hey, you know what, this is my future. This is my career. Like, this is what I'm doing.
I mean,
there's proof now.
To be honest with you, it's when I brought on investors, it's when, I got to a point where I could, and it just took years and years. Even when I first got, and when I first got investors, there was no social equity. It was like I was getting $1 million checks, sent to me from like our investors early on. And no one was doing that. It was all on handshakes and genetics and our tribal property. Our first investors.
Good people, though, at least from what I know right here right now. Yeah. Because right now you're hearing
where we need to go.
There's so many. You had to get to 20 investors before you got to the ones you're working with now.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
But the point is, like, I'll be totally honest with you. When you're scraping it all together, it's your money and, it's not really stable. You're just scraping, you're just pulling everything together. And when you get to a point where you actually have a company and people sit in front of you and seriously go, yeah, I'm going to write you a check for $4 million, or I'm going to write you a check for $2 million. That's when you can be like, you have structure, you have like people. And man, I've been scraping along with my operators have not been the best. That's been one of my weaknesses. Now my weakness is my strength. It's like, it's taken 5 years to find like talent and make people believe. You're not getting the best guys from like Tilray or these high guys that work at these companies around the world unless you have a fucking resume and people want to work with you and believe in you. And so now, as far as we've come, and look, the industry in this regulated industry, we take hits, man. And if you're a brand in the industry and you're alive right now, big ups, because it's hard. And if you're regulated and if you're fighting to try to at least be licensed and evolve and come from what we come from, which is like, doing it in our garages and shit, like it's hard.
The pivot is the hardest.
I'm not a hater, man. Like I want everybody to win. I think everybody, like there's room for everybody. And I just think like, the more, like right now, we're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions. We're seeing a lot of consolidation and
collaboration over competition.
We're seeing a lot of like, so companies, where I'm going with it, with the mergers and stuff, is a lot of companies, like you're starting to see their strengths and weaknesses. Like I've got a brand, I've got genetics, certain other people, they have big cultivation.
Yeah.
And so there's ways now, because like now a lot of people put a lot of money into cultivation. And now they, the market's starting to, like, if you've got mids or anything that's not exotic or brand, it's like, it's just going down. So now somebody like me can come in and be like, okay, I'll give you X amount. You grow fire. And I mean, they're giving me fire, right? 37%. Now I can be, I've created a space for myself where I can leverage this and we can come in and we can be like, yo, we got a checkbook. And it's like, nah, we're not going to, but we treat our farmers, our growers fair. But it's like, yo, this is a competitive market. And like we invested into the brand, and heavily. And we invested into our cultivation and stuff. But I believe that ultimately, the sun and, these greenhouses and things are going to be the future, where the price per pound is going to be very low. The quality is going to be super high. You're going to be getting the same percentages. I think that's really where it's going. But in the meantime, all these indoor guys that are going to be, frankly, there's going to be a lot of my friends and people that are going to be going out of business because they're depending on these genetics that are watered down, these genetics that are recycled. And I won't name any names, but it's like a lot of the same shit. And it's styrofoam. It's big styrofoam ass buds that look fire. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be so high. And then you light it up and you don't taste anything.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just Balco the fuck out. And I just like part of these pheno hunting and just these selections for these new cultivars that, look, it's not just for me. I can only grow 10 whatever strains, right?
Yeah.
A lot of this is going to be for these partners that we're going to work with.
That's amazing though, because you're about to put
cannabis.
out thousands of phenos and you're going to be able to choose from thousands of phenos. And by you saying, I'm going to use all these different genetics, that's a good thing. Because now we're going to see a lot of expression. We're going to see GMO expression, chem expression. Now we're going to see Girl Scout expression. Now we're going to see gelato times gelato times gelato. And now you're going to see stuff that has somehow been probably like runts or gelato, right? But it's gelato forward, right? It's like been originally. Now you're going to see that times gelato. It's so dope. Yeah. And now the variety of phenotypes you're going to hunt for is going to be crazy.
My goal is I want to break the glass ceiling. I want to break the roof off it all. I don't want to I just want to just go, hey, this is my best work. This is, I don't know how to contribute to the game anymore. I'm popping everything under the ceiling.
Dude, being transparent will do that. People will be tripping out seeing that.
And I think that's the only way. And then
your life, you can do it.
Yeah. And
but just people to see that.
If you have so many too, I can't cultivate all these. So then it's going to open up to other people that I can really bring them in and say, hey, what do you want to hear? What direction we want to go? Because these guys that are breeding and doing these projects, it takes fucking time, passion, money, commitment.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Shout out to all the breeders out there. That
Anybody
are
who's making seeds, who's growing, who's from the testers to the cultivators, to the seed makers, to the people that put it in people's hands. Look, you guys realize like it's legal to grow cannabis. Like a lot of people have fought and died for this. One of the things I'm going to be working on with Sherbinski's is doing distribution for seeds in all the dispensaries in California to give just everyday people access to good genetics. And you can grow it in your backyard legally. You can have 6 plants. And so, if you've got a safe space and, if it's not going to be around, whatever you feel comfortable with, grow the cannabis, try it. Because trust me, it's a hardy plant and there's good genetics that you have access to. And if you have these things and you grow it in your backyard, you're probably, if you have a drinking problem, you're probably going to drink less. If you're taking medication and you're a veteran, shout out to my veterans, are all the pain and all the PTSD and everything you're going through. If you have access to good medicine, you're gonna get off all those meds and you're gonna be able to do it because you're gonna be feeling good. You're gonna be getting high, and you're gonna be building community. And that's what soldiers do. That's what the military. My brother, shout out to my brother Kevin. He's 100% disabled PTSD from Desert Storm. U.S. Marine Corps. So I've got and cannabis saved his life. He came to my, 7-8 years ago, he came to my house in San Francisco when I was teaching Muay Thai and he was suicidal. And I ran with him on the beach and I got him into Muay Thai. And in a year's time, he lost 100 pounds and he got off all his medication. And all he was doing is smoking gelato and sherbet and doing concentrates and shit. So
wow. I love that.
I believe in it. And so yeah, man, it's about the people and I'm just totally committed. I want to have a brand with purpose. And I believe that that's going to be the differentiator for all brands moving forward, not just in the cannabis space, especially in the cannabis space, because we're leaders in so many ways. But in all business, it's like, what's your purpose? What's the driving thing? And I think, we had to take a good look at that with COVID and everything. Everybody had to sit down and be like, yo, what are we really about now? Like, fuck. And when I sat down and I thought about what I was about, it was like, man, I'm about the same thing I've always been about, which is about being true to this plant, helping people. I'm helping people by growing flower. I'm helping people by giving people safe access in dispensaries.
By doing good business, by not fucking people over. I mean, yeah, dude. Yeah. I can tell by the way you talk about business that it's like, I know it's a treacherous space. And you're staying true to yourself through it. I can tell. So
yeah, man, and just having integrity with what we do. And look, here's the other thing is I'm here to tell you with all this, I told you the bad side of it, but the good side of the cannabis space is don't give up hope because there is good people. And even with corporate cannabis cutthroat business, you can still operate with integrity and you can still do good business with good people.
Yes.
And, you know, and there's a lot of great people in the cannabis space and there's still great community. I just want to encourage all of us to hold on to that part of it, not be haters, you know, big up the people that you see around you because everyone's got their challenges. We're all trying to just get through this. And it just, with that kind of energy, you can go so much farther. And honestly, dude, there's been people that I might have met and then I don't see them for a couple years. And then they meet me and they go, hey, Mario, I really liked how you handled this and this. And I'd really like to do business with you. And they fucking open up mad doors, you know? So sometimes, and that was all just by, you know, staying true and like building relationships within the community. So there's a lot of that
sometimes it's the moves that you don't think people are seeing. They are seeing and they understand like, nah, he made that right. He handled that the right way. And they were. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Like, for example,
it's almost like karmatic.
My boy, Chris, we had a big indoor grow last year in Sylmar. It didn't really work. They grew fire though. Right. And it didn't really work out. We had some problems with his former employer, but Chris and I were always like straight up. He's like, hey dude, he was always honorable. I knew like Chris was solid.
Yeah.
Chris calls me up about a month ago and was like, dude, guess what? I'm not with him anymore. I got a fucking 700 light facility. I want you in. Boom. Like, I don't even have to question. There's no interview. It's like, I know how Chris operates. I know like that he's solid. I know that if I deal with issues, because it's not if, it's when. If you're in business, if you're cultivating, shit's going to happen. Hundreds of thousands of dollars will be lost.
Yes.
You'll build bugs, this, that, power went, this shit's going to happen.
Grower quit, grower stole, something.
If you can't get through all this shit with people and they're not people that are going to like be able to like bounce, it's really hard. And so
yeah,
that's what I mean by rolling with the punches. And sometimes, you know, things lead but if you're true and you deal with people, that was a good example for me because I was so pissed. I give my genetics to people. It doesn't work out. It ended up being a blessing. You know, I met Chris. I saw what he was all about.
And now the word's out too. And people know, man, like this is the homie who really put these on the map. It doesn't matter. Like, oh, that's awesome. You grow it. But like, yeah, that's the big homie whose that is.
Yeah.
Right. I always associate it to like a cook in the kitchen, right? They can, you know, you can say, no, this is Mario spaghetti, right? And that's what and now they can try to make that. They can have the recipe. They can have the exact recipe. It's still going to come out different. Still going to taste different. Yeah. You having your grows and you focusing in on this and being able to focus your growers and also on like, no, something about the flavor. You need to change this up. Or, I mean, I can't wait to see that, bro. The evolution of what's about to happen.
I'm going to be tripping because I'm going to be like, whoa, fuck. Like for example, in Oklahoma, if you look up, Dabbergrass, big up to my partners, Dabbergrass in Oklahoma, 500 acres of flavor. But yeah, they did 500 acres last year in Oklahoma.
Holy cow.
My model and everything
500 acres.
We had the vision. I work with a partner. We actually grew seeds out there. And then this year we were able to plant them in 130,000 seeds, you know, and we, you know, working with a different, that's another side of how we see like cultivation going. And then there was like 11 different varieties. And then so we got to see they were just, look, they're growing. And then they're also Cookies cultivation partner out there. So it was like hundreds of acres out here. And we're growing plants from like, you know, we were testing things and going, okay, if we drop them August and they're this big, how big are they going to be? And these plants are like this fucking big.
And expressions, 11,000. I mean, insane amounts of expressions of phenotypes.
And so we're going through and we're creating the SOPs to like make sure that any herms, anything, everything is marked, everything's perfect, no seeds. We go back through on the keeper side, flag ones. We can actually pull cuts. We can actually revegetate it. And so on such a large scale, this is where this is going, you know, and like Oklahoma, and big up to, again, Dabbergrass for having the vision and the balls to like actually pull this off, but
put the work in.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like, I've never seen anything like that on a scale. I'm proud to say, even like, this wasn't technically a pheno hunt, but like, yeah, there was 60 acres that we did of just that. And then, so, yeah. And I think,
bro, I don't know if you can call it a pheno hunt. I mean, so that's like one of the biggest pheno hunts I've ever heard of.
This was the grow that started what we're talking about. It's this now, literally my girlfriend and I were flying out Saturday morning to go and just give our blessing. And this land too, this was all native land. It was all fucking, you go out there, they had all the Indian casinos, everything's native. We like when they're digging up the soil, they're finding fucking dozens and dozens of like arrowheads and shit all over the place. So like, it's super. I've never spent time out there, but Oklahoma, you think like Oklahoma, what the fuck? You're like, dude, it's God's country. Bro.
I didn't know that. That's
it's
epic.
Gorgeous. It's beautiful. And you know, you got to know how to grow out there because there's storms that come and shit like that. But these guys figured it out, man.
I hear some crazy
They grow
humidity.
short and stout.
Yeah.
They spray certain things. Dude, they were using, we don't use pump sprayers. We were using crop dusters, bro.
Right.
So yeah, from pump sprayers to crop dusters, right, brother? Like,
Crazy.
like
That's
straight
crazy.
up. Like, he's like,
They got the plane come in and
yeah.
wow.
And Power SI, hey, big up to Power SI. You guys sponsored our farm out there with Dabber Grass. You guys drop off pallets and shit. So
Straight up, shout out to the homie Rex, man.
Yeah, big up Rex, and
big up
thank
to
you for the love and support. Thanks to your products and things, is like we've had like just wonderful results out there, and for being sun grown and being through the rain and everything, this shit's fucking fire. So,
exactly. And that's
there's
literally
reasons.
what that's for, man.
Yeah.
And that's the big homie. He said, he was like, I want to be the number one sponsor. He was like, I don't care whatever, you know, he's the big homie, just like he did with you. He's like, I'll send you pallets. He's such a grower.
He's a grower.
He literally reaches out to growers and he's like,
for the community.
Like, what do you want to know? I can tell you all about. He's one of the coolest dudes, man.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Passion and purpose.
Yeah, he helps us a lot.
Big purpose. I feel it today with Mario here, man. I mean, massive purpose.
Well, man, shit. We appreciate your time, bro.
Yeah,
It was like a good time to wrap up.
We had a blast.
This is like a blast from the past with the Sherbinsky brand.
I know, literally.
We need to fire this thing up too.
Man, we're gonna troubleshoot this thing. We gotta figure this out on the Vol on this.
I'll figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. I
The
promise.
biggest one. You already know, man. Family, man. For real.
Hopefully you guys will have me back for season 4.
You already know. Season 3, episode 25. It's
No,
first
we got to
smoke of
come
the
see
day.
the grower. We got to come kick it. We'll do something with taste. Let's do a taste maker. Let's try something out.
100%.
Yeah.
Come through.
Yep.
And then I got some flavors for you pretty soon
pick some
too.
shit
I do
out,
my thing.
I'd
I'll
love
show
to,
you.
man.
Absolutely.
I'm a fan and I'm a student always.
And shout out to our boy John G Music One at John G Music One. You already know the big
Love
homie,
it.
man.
A few nights of smoking herb and listening to beats and being like, yo, I did this song with this dude and I produced. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, we went to his
people
house
that
in
are
Vegas a few
passionate.
times.
Oh yeah.
It's good times.
But passionate people where it's just passion over everything. That's a guy I think of with that. Where we're sitting in there and he just loves music. He's producing music. I love it.
You already know, man.
Yeah.
That new artist he's working with, Jeremy, though, look out for him. He's fire.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely, man. Sherbinsky, first smoke of the day, episode 25. We appreciate it.
White
Black
Ashes.
Gods,
Thanks for
Black
having me.
Leaf, Sherbinsky.
Big
We're
up,
out,
everybody.
man.
Bless.
Peace.